No, I hadn't hit it yet. It's
Now
hit
it's
now.
live.
Now I hit it. I was running a little late. I don't know if that's already on YouTube's, but it should be.
Oops.
I was running a little late because I was
But
having.
because even Troy says he likes the memes that you do. They come out real good.
Well, my memes are if I think about it for longer than 10 seconds, it's too long.
It's
So
probably a good rule of thumb.
yeah, so I just stick up whatever the first thing I stop and go, what's the first thing that comes to my head, or what if I grab this picture and this picture and just jam them together or something like that and stick them up. Usually, sometimes with some sort of weird esoteric reference to something like. Sometimes I put in like weird things. I was gonna put in something today about how come all the lovely ideas turn into mountains of skulls, but didn't fit into the picture. Although that's it.
I mean, between the two podcasts, like the Gen Cast and then them releasing that board meeting, like we could go 15 hours on that crap.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anytime we take like a week and a half, there's 15 hours of stuff. Each of us really stopped and thought about every single topic that hit up every single day. But just once again, on the post-Mormon stuff alone, you could roll forever with it. Because there was a whole cast by Kara and by Zelf on the Shelf I could occupy 3 hours with.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Have they commented? Has anybody else talked about this? Has Kara talked about them?
He's here for the Mormon stories. We wanted to talk about Hogwarts.
I don't have any. I haven't. I'm probably years away from playing that game at this point.
I've gotten such little time to play it, but so far I like it, Troy. I'm not.
Jared and Johnson have it. I don't have it yet, but mine's not as far away as Flip's, but I've got like a busy couple weeks and I don't own that. I would have already bought it if I owned that gear already, but I have to go get the whole entire.
I'm gonna
You're
play
buying
the
the
shit
thing
out
to
of
do
it.
it.
Yeah, that and Elden Ring or
I like the character customization on it because I get like so tired of how in depth a lot of those are. Because this one, it's pretty in depth. It's got you could have these scars or this face or this eye color or this hairstyle, but then you go to like Skyrim or whatever, and it's like, how far apart do you want your brows to be from your nose, and what shape are they? Like, I don't care.
I mean, if like I don't know, we used to have fun back in the days when you could create players on FIFA. We would like try to make soccer teams out of our friends. But like, I mean, if you're like a visual artist, you can probably do a pretty good job. But like, we mostly just made ridiculous caricatures. But
it's fun to make like some wacky, ugly thing on Dark Souls. But I played that Phoenix Rising, and you can change the genders in the middle of the game. I don't think it was any sort of thing, but I could tell a little bit into it that they made your male be kind of effeminate because the story was supposed to be for a girl. And so for pretty long, just from all the dialogue and everything, I was like, I can tell the protagonist is supposed to be a girl. This is irking me. I'm switching it over because it's messing up the story that my guy's whatever. But not that the story matters that much. No, I want to play Hogwarts. I've got FOMO going on with the Hogwarts. I watched Troy's video about the introduction to it and the all the care and all the time and the stuff they put into it, and I've watched several reviews of it, although I'm trying to watch reviews that were being careful about spoiling too much of it. And
if you're worried about spoilers, you gotta watch out for the really pissed off trans people are trying to spoil it.
Are they dumping spoilers just to try to spoil it?
Yeah.
Like literally spoilers?
Yep.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Fascinating.
Which, luckily I don't care. I don't care as much as like your typical Marvel fan about spoilers, but it's kind of like a dick thing to do, you know.
Well, the other thing is like I just know better than to get too excited about any AAA game. Like this thing, all the buzz is there. I'm guessing it looks like it's pretty good, but I've been burned before.
So when I show what's up for the crow's nest, Christopher, what's up? Since you guys Troy's video, it had almost 60,000 views on it. I'm sure even more by now. I mean, he was that thing lit up the skies. People have been talking about it all around that nerdrotic world and all that sorts of stuff. Which, speaking of which, we have not. It's been so long since the last time we were here, a week and a half, crazy long, or 2 weeks, that we haven't talked about Brokeback Last of Us yet either.
I still haven't watched it.
Last of the Brokebacks? Really?
There's been a whole other episode since then.
I haven't watched the episode since then, but I did finally watch broke back Last of Us.
You said you had some commentary on it.
Yeah, no, it's like, because like the usual suspects on like, YouTube conservative commentator types were trying to make it all like, woke, and like, I think, and I watched Ben Shapiro's review of it. And like in Ben Shapiro, like, it's funny because like sometimes he's just such a square that, 'cause he complains about how like, the episode hardly has any zombies in it. And it's like, Ben, if you thought the show was about the zombies, you're missing the point. Like just first there, like just as a matter of art, you're missing the damn point. But like, so I watched it. And, and so the whole time, obviously, like, not that I'm looking for it, like I want to enjoy it, but it's just like, oh God, when is it going to drop? When is it going to drop? And I have to say it never did. I thought it was just fine. Like, it's a story they told, like it happened naturally. Everything worked great. It was well told. And I was thinking about it, started thinking about it. Like, what is the difference between something that's been hijacked by woke people versus what I think this Last of Us episode was? And the analogy I came up with is that it's the exact same difference between a movie about Christians and a Christian movie, or a movie about Mormons and a Mormon movie. Like that is the difference. Like, this was a story about gays. Fine. It was good. It was natural. Like, everything fell into place, made sense for the characters. And,
but it wasn't their religion that told the story.
Yeah, exactly. Like, at no point did they, complain about how civilization wasn't treating them fairly, even though it was gone, yeah, it's just that. Like, and, my other big, the only other complaint I might make about it is just that, like, why do we need to, again, there was already a video game called Last of Us.
I know.
That had these characters.
That's the thing. That's the reason I'm like dragging my heels so much to watch it, because I want to watch it because I want to have an opinion on it, because I'm sure all the conservatives are wrong about how it's terrible bullshit. I'm sure it's actually pretty good. Pedro Pascal's a good actor.
It's good. It's just like
I've seen this story, and it's one of my favorite stories ever. It's a really good story.
Well, I wonder how,
especially the ending. They better not ruin the ending.
Yeah, that's kind of wonder. Like, the only thing that kind of makes me want to keep watching is like, will they take it off the rails and make me hate it? Because like right now, I just have to say it's fine. Because the other thing is, I was thinking about this is like, I kind of want to be like, well, look, Grandma, you don't want to play the video game, you'd rather watch the TV show. Come on, just ask your grandson, like, play Last of Us for me so I can watch the show. That's how you should do it, rather than waste your time with HBO. But then I thought about it, it's kind of like telling somebody like, well, if you want to know the story of Swan Lake, you have to learn ballet. Like, no, it's okay to cheat. And, like, find somebody else to do it or watch it. Like, so I don't know. It's funny, like, all the things are there for me to be annoyed at this stupid Last of Us thing. And I just have to say, like, no, they did fine. It's good. They're so far, they're treating the original material with respect, I think. And it's all done very well.
Yeah.
There you go.
I had a little bit different opinion on it, but I don't think it's from being woke. The wokeness is in there. I mean, they're trying to jam it in there, like they gotta jam it in there or whatever. But I think it was stilted. Like, I'm somebody I was a fan of Brokeback Mountain. I've seen it like 3 times. I thought it was a really good movie, really well done, really kind of realistic love story, and it really did kind of seem to like tug and be some sort of a difficult thing that people went through, but there was like a natural progression to the relationship that made sense. You know what I mean? Like it.
Yeah, it did just kind of bang right off. That is a little weird.
That what I say is like the start of this seemed to me like how you would start a porno. 100%. It's like,
talk to gay guys, and it really does seem to be.
Yeah, and that's how their lives gotta go. But
probably that's probably in areas where everybody's gay, right? If you go into an area like a gay bar, everyone's gay. Like,
yeah. Well, and like they have a way. They hinted off because he's a big Linda Ronstadt fan. I can't say.
Yeah, but the guy fell out of the sky for him.
Yeah, that was a little
almost
weird.
Dressed GQ and already doing like a meet cute, like, hey, I fell in this hole. And to me, if I'm sitting there watching the whole thing, I'm like, this feels stilted.
So it's kind of like the characters know from the beginning that they're in a love story.
Yeah, they know they're in a love story. In fact, I didn't know. I'd forgotten the old. I watched through Last of Us really quickly years ago on YouTube just to see what the gist was. So I didn't pay attention very closely because I never played it. So and I had no idea. I couldn't remember, and so I wasn't even expecting this. I didn't even know what was going on. Right? A lot of people who played the game knew it was coming or something like that, or were guessing it was coming. I had no idea. Within 10 seconds of them talking, and the way the guy was like looking at him, and be like, "Why is this guy in the hole who's been in zombie world for 5 years dressed like he's for the cover of GQ right now and like doing like baddie eyes and stuff?" And I'm like, oh, it's gonna be gay. You know, I just realized it in like 10 seconds. And then after like they one day of going in and eating a meal together, and then they're off to bed together, I'm like, well, that's about the progression of a porno flick, honestly. And like that's why I say I watched Brokeback Mountain. Brokeback Mountain has a progression over like a whole winter that they're holed up together inside of a working together on like a sheep farm where it's just those two together. You know what I mean? So it's like it has this way more natural progression of it. Yeah.
Is this you rejecting the modernity of Last of Us and embracing the tradition of Brokeback Mountain?
Yeah, it's me just. Well, I'm critiquing stuff how we used to critique it. I'm not talking about how woke it is or not. I'm just saying it was.
You can also say it's a little bit different.
Stilted and jarred.
Brokeback Mountain is about two people in a very conservative culture, whereas like in this story, it's like I mean, you know, the Ron Swanson character is, you know, reluctant, but like it's not like they're carrying all this other baggage. I don't know.
He's reluctant, but at the same time, he's a little bit too open for the guy who's supposed to be like Bill. And then by the end, the way he gets himself shot and stuff is too stupid for a guy like Bill. Like, there's just too many different things.
The way he got himself shot was really stupid. I remember there was a lot of stuff that stood out where just like, we're just bad writing for sure.
Yeah, there's just like enough. And then there's a lot of people kind of pointed out like, okay, we could do the whole gay story and stuff like that, but Bill would not be a guy who would go out like that.
But basically the problem
he would keep going because he's a survivalist, you know. And
this is a story that didn't need to be told. You know, it's just like the Star Wars prequels. Like we don't need to know how Darth Vader ended up in the suit, and we don't need to know how Bill ended up alone. We just don't need.
What's that great Patton Oswalt bit? He's like, "Hey, you like Angelina Jolie? Well, here's a picture of John Voight's nutsack." That's where he came. That's where she came from. But no, that's kind of my only criticism of the whole thing, right? Because it's not like they made a character gay that wasn't. He was obviously gay in the game. It's kind of just that they're like, well, we need to pad the runtime on this, so we have to flesh something out. But I don't think they have to pad the runtime. How many episodes is it going to be?
This is where like I'm giving them their due. I think maybe I'm just taking their side. Is that because like, so for me, part of the reason I like this game and like, you know, I like the Fallout games is the whole meta story of the stories they don't tell you, of just the stuff you encounter and you kind of put it together yourself, you know, you kind of see how these things go. Like Last of Us in particular was really good about that, you know, like you'd go through houses and you'd find like a child's diary half open and there's schoolwork there. And you kind of put together what happened in this situation, you know.
And each of the characters that you run into briefly and spend some time with them, they have a backstory. You're pretty aware of it, but you have to fill in the
But I mean, but beyond the characters, like just the things like, you know, going through the world and you kind of see like, you know, oh, wow. Like, so at some point they blocked off this road and somebody turned this into a camp, but then it got overrun and whatever, you know, you put it all together. Yeah. And so in that sense, it's like, you know, like, oh, what would it be like? Like, okay, we've created this world with the stupid fungus zombies that don't make any fucking sense. Like that was a big problem with the game, is like the way the transmission of the thing made no sense. Yeah, well, that's right.
It's climate change. The world got hotter and those things bake hotter. And I saw some clip that said, man, did you notice the imagery of the cookies baking? That was like global warming. I was like, oh, somebody shoot me in the head with stuff like that. So it's got that weird little overtone to it going on. But honestly, all the little tidbits of wokeness critiques are going to be there no matter what, and it's probably going to get more. But I could critique it just outside of the wokeness, just for kind of the weird, kind of stilted relationship beats. And
like mostly, I say like it's a story we didn't need to see. It doesn't.
And then this is the one thing that's probably a woke critique of the show, but every single gang and army led by a dumpy woman. Is that the future? I mean, I guess. But we already know that's how everything goes. And
they were already doing that in Walking Dead. I stopped watching Walking Dead so long ago, and my dad has this thing where he has to finish right? Like he has to finish.
I
these
used to
shows.
have that.
It doesn't matter how
Dexter
terrible
killed
they
that
are.
for me.
Yeah, that was actually probably the one that killed it for me too. But no, he's got to finish them no matter how terrible they are. And he'll always tell me, he'll be like, "You don't mind if I spoil Walking Dead for you?" Like, no, God, no. Just you can tell me what happens. He's like, "It's so stupid." It's like, "Well, stop watching it." I can't. And you get this like season 6 or whatever. You get this community that lives in an actual garbage dump, and it's led by this woman with one of the stupid straight bang cuts, but they have their whole dialect. They talk like Yoda or some shit. They're like, "Come to our house, you will. Fight for combat, you will." And you're like, wait a minute. It's only been like
2
6
years.
or 8 years since fucking, like, you don't create your own dialect that quickly. Did you forget how to speak?
South Park made that joke like 20 years ago with that. Like seriously, season 3, the episode where all the they all the kids accuse their parents of being molesters so they don't have to do homework, and like it's Children of the Corn. Like the couple stumbles into town, and the kids talk about that, like you mean in the before time, the long ago, and they mean like day before yesterday.
You know what though? It's kind of nice that the critiques aren't just like, oh, it's just wokeness. You know what I mean? Because if we could just because movies and shit weren't great 10 years ago. It's just we were critiquing them on a different plane of stuff. That they weren't hammering in the Christian movie stuff, like you're saying, the woke movie stuff. We were just critiquing it on, I don't know about that acting job, or I don't know, like Dexter. Dexter didn't die because it went woke. Dexter died because it started sucking.
Yeah.
I halfway enjoyed half a season of that, and I'm just like, again, it's like I'm bored. I don't care.
Four seasons were okay, and then it just nosedived pretty hard. But
one thing's the actress that plays the sister,
she's in all the
like her. I think she's a terrible actress.
She's in all of those Bone Tomahawk shows.
Yeah,
she's in
Raw
with that
Cell Block
director.
99.
Does she strike you as like just a hack actor?
She's also in Dragged Across Concrete. She's
I
married
don't
to
know.
one of the Avett brothers. She had an affair with one of the Avett brothers, and they're married now, and like a bunch of his songs are about having an affair with her.
See, in Dexter, I was never sure if it was the actor that bothered me or if it was her character, because
maybe it was the direction. Like
she didn't irritate me that much.
I also watched.
I heard she irritated a lot of others.
Do you remember that Limitless movie with?
Oh yeah.
Where Bradley Cooper takes the pill that unlocks his brain potential or whatever. They made a TV show out of that.
They
and
did?
Me and my wife tried it. Yeah, they only made it one season because it wasn't very good. And it wasn't him, it was some other guy. But she was one of the main characters in it. And I remember there is something about her that bugs me, and I don't know what it is.
I don't
She was pretty good in Brawl in Cell Block 99. I thought she was pretty perfect for that role.
In both of those movies, and I think she must have some relationship with that director because she's also in Dragged Across Concrete. You'd be fine with her in Dragged Across Concrete because it's a very limited role. It's pretty limited.
Did she get dragged across concrete?
Worse. I think that she must have something with that director because like he pulls her up in like everything and it's the same director who keeps using like Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn. He has to use all the right-wing Hollywood people because he's been declared a right-wing director. But then he had that Bone Tomahawk.
Brad Bird almost got that. You remember that?
Yeah.
When they were trying to say that all of his stuff was like Ayn Rand.
Yeah.
Totally. Which with The Incredibles they got a pretty good argument for.
Well, it's there in Iron Giant a whole lot too.
Iron Giant's awesome.
Anyway, should we get on to more stories, or is there any more entertainment stuff?
Oh, I've been excited for Jenn. Oh my god, this was amazing.
What's up, Maple Lake Mountain?
Jenn is the entertainment.
This is one of the funniest things that's happened.
Should we watch clips of it, or should we just describe what happened?
I started watching the thing that she put out, whatever, 12, 13 days ago. I don't know what it was. And like just 5 minutes into it, this exactly went through my mind. I went, Oh, hello, borderline personality disorder.
Yeah.
You might not remember me, but we've met. I recognize you. I've seen you before.
Well,
So
so
Holy crap.
the conclusion that we all sort of came to was how big of a fucking idiot is John DeLynn for hiring this maniac?
Yeah,
like,
like-
we spend so
but
much
what
time
if-
shitting
what
on John
if-
DeLynn, and I have real empathy for him in this situation.
What if?
Like, he is in a
What if he's playing
bind.
4D chess? What if this is a 4D chess move? Because he comes out of this looking pretty normal. I don't
No,
think that
I-
it actually is.
but I
that's
do
I
agree.
don't know.
my little. It's this great. Like, woo! What if that were what he's doing? You know, he hired.
I
this
do
maniac.
agree with
Trumpian
you,
super
though.
move.
The title of this is John DeLynn didn't do nothing wrong, but that's not true because it is. I really think. I mean, I've got a long time of hiring and
We're
vetting
gonna
out people like
victim
this.
blame the hell out of John DeLynn.
And you
That's what
can't
we're
do
gonna do.
perfect. You can't do perfect in hiring people or something like that. But
But you
I
should
think
have.
I could have
known with
sussed
her.
this out, or at least could have sussed out to not start advancing her because they were obviously in their claims say that she started acting a certain way, and then they started giving her more responsibility after acting a certain way, according
Yeah.
to their own story.
Well, according to
I
her,
was
she
thinking about
asked
this,
for
like-
a $5 raise. They gave her the $5 raise, and then a month later, she asked for another raise, and they're like,
She
"What?"
started out being overpaid for a job for which she was underqualified.
Oh, absolutely.
Then, after getting the job on those terms, negotiated a whole slew of special treatment, including professional development on company time, and then negotiated for a raise and got it. It's really incredible to me, like, just the hubris of it all. But
So anyone in the chat, how many people actually like listen to RFM's review
or to
Or-
Jen's whole thing.
or to Jen's? They actually recorded the meeting that she claimed that she got harassed.
It was amazing.
I
in.
listened to
The
Jen's
thing is,
whole
you
thing,
should've
I
known.
listened to the review, and I listened to the meeting. I
Yeah.
got the whole thing.
Me too. So you should have known. It should have been so easy to spot her immediately and be like, she's going to be drama, because there's 100% chance that she sobbed during the interview. You know,
Oh, yeah.
and if you cry during the interview, I'm just immediately, nope, this isn't
Yeah.
going to happen.
No, and she, like, I mean, she's obviously deluded.
Oh yeah.
She really believes this stuff because, like, she explains. My mind just rushes back to when I was 17 and I was a brand new driver, and I got in a car accident where a lady pulled in front of me. She was making a turn, like trying to make a left turn, and pulled in front of me. But it's kind of a weird thing. There was a Y in the street, and it looked like I hit her, like, because it looked like, it's hard to describe. But anyway, I got completely scot-free because in her thing, she said, "Oh, I was pulling out to see if I could go," and the cop's like, "Oh, well, if you were pulling out, that means you were in the street." But there you go, because she tried to make it out like I was a maniac because I was just some dumb kid.
Yeah.
And she did the same thing to me, where it's like, she was crying about, like, "Oh my god, and I just got a job and I just had kidney surgery," and I'm freaking out. I'm thinking, like, this is the end of my driving career and all this shit. And, like, no, and, like, she just shot herself in the foot because, like, she's like this person where she thinks, like, no, I should be allowed to pull into the street before I go to see if it's okay, and Jen has the same thing. It's like, what do you mean? How dare you tell me I have to come to work?
Okay,
my
so
job.
let's go back to the start just in case anybody hasn't ever heard anything.
What is the nature of Jen's suit? Crazy
so
bitch
things were
bullshit.
going
and what's
along
the nature
with-
of the countersuit? She's incompetent and she is a crazy bitch.
So to say for real, she was just going along fine, doing the side stuff, and you kind of barely noticed her unless they did like a close up on her tears for the regular videos and that sort of stuff.
An extra cam with like a telephoto lens just to get those real close up on the tears, get it coming out.
Yeah. And so then all of a sudden she wasn't there, and John kind of came out with a get ahead of it type thing, saying, "Oh, I need to be more careful with who I hire." And at that moment, we didn't know who he was talking about. We didn't know if he'd fired Gerardo or whoever. And then everybody figured out it was Jen after a little bit. So then Jen released her own little 5-minute video saying that she was going to file suit against him for harassment.
Was it
But
5 minutes? Because it felt like
it wasn't
hour.
long. It wasn't long at all. It was like
Because
10 at the
sobbed the
most.
whole fucking time.
Yeah, well, she's all we've known of her is sobbing, really. But the little video didn't go into much detail. It just said he'd been harassed. Anyway, after doing that, she took that down after like a day or two or something like that. We hadn't heard any more. Then she came out on like Steve Pineker's Mormon book reviews and kind of hinted at more that I have like a whole case and there's going to be this larger case and I got my whole podcast started and it's going to come out and I can't talk about it, but there's going to be more. And then she talked about that more on another show. So we're all like, okay, well, maybe there really is like some harassment thing going on here or something. So then RFM released this week or heard, this is one of the things that irritates me about it, is they said he heard through the grapevine that John DeLynn had filed countersuit, and I got in a hold of this countersuit language from the public archive. Like, come on, like John DeLynn wasn't talking to you directly the whole time, or you didn't help, put the thing together or talk or advise on it back. But anyway, so RFM's whole video right here that I have up is him reading through the entire counter lawsuit, and the counter lawsuit. For as much crap as we talk on DeLynn,
they've got her dead to rights.
Yeah, we think that across the board, DeLynn's
she has no case.
That's great. She thinks she does.
The only piece of her case is he said something horrible and yelly and threatening, and I recorded it, but I deleted that recording.
But because they didn't seem interested in hearing it.
Yeah, like that was literally the case. I mean, she contradicted herself so many times in this, but one of them I thought was funny is because, like, the first time she mentions the recording, she's like, no, it was just a spur of the moment thing. Like, I just thought, like, oh, and I felt kind of threatened, and I thought, well, okay, maybe I should do this. And so I just, at that moment, I decided I should just record. Then way later on in the whole recording, or in the meeting thing, she mentions, because, like, they kind of hint at, like, I mean, they don't say this is criminal. They don't hint at anything like that, but they hint at, like, lady, what are you doing? Like, you're going to break people's trust. And she says, like, I asked, and it is legal in Utah. I made sure that it's legal to record. It's like, okay, so then you were thinking about it, jackass. Who do you think you're fooling?
I know. I just pulled it out and didn't think about it.
It was legal. To me,
it was legal. I looked it up.
She admits, like, no, she had thought, and she keeps contradicting herself like that all the time. Like the other one where she totally contradicted herself is she says, I tried to settle because I wanted to protect the reputation of Open Stories and John DeLynn.
So this is pretty wild to me that one of the things they mentioned in the lawsuit is that they have the copy of this that she mentioned was one of the meetings she got harassed in, and they just dropped the whole video. Like, I kind of can't believe they dropped this video, because this isn't a YouTube video. This is a Zoom meeting complaining about John DeLynn as a boss.
Oh, it's pretty funny, because I think they should have been more mean. Watching this whole video, I get this whole sense that like HR has kind of just ruined human interaction. No offense, but it has. Like the way we talk in these like corporate settings, this isn't how humans are supposed to talk to each other. When someone is being absurd, as she so obviously is, I'm like screaming at the screen because I want one of the three other people to just be like, I don't have to listen to you. You're fired, and then leave. Like she's so clearly wrong.
Yeah, no, this is one of those things where it's like, I wish that, like, because these people are all feminists ideologically. And so, it's
they made their own.
I don't have that disease, so I can just say, like, no, let me explain the situation, John. Jen is a crazy, manipulative, emotional terrorist.
Yeah, we're defending DeLynn totally on this one.
Besides
that they should have had some sort of wherewithal to not hire her or not give her more responsibility all along the way. But beyond that, too, if you watch this entire video, which is a video of their meeting. So my job is in this type of stuff. I do HR meetings, this sort of deal. They're obviously not very trained in these types of deals because she's kind of able to run them over. I won't use the word wokeness, but there's this thing in this world now with managers where they kind of don't know the law, and there's even less law when you're an organization like.
Well, they're volunteers. They're not.
Yeah, no, and they are committed feminists.
But if you're a company,
all the bullshit that comes with that about work and women's roles and competency and all this other crap.
So if you're a company, well, what sort of company are they? They that what's that 501c3 company,
Yeah.
but they have less than 15 employees. EEOC laws don't apply to them, which is one of the things that irritates me about their defense of his other thing is they keep saying it got thrown out by the commission and all that sorts of stuff. That they use that as some sort of it's thrown out because you don't have.
They act like it was an evidentiary thing when it had nothing to do with the facts of the case. It was thrown out on a pure jurisdictional technicality, nothing to do with evidence or anything else.
And also, maybe it's a little bit telling that this is the one case that he just laid everything he had, like all the video evidence, everything. He just here it all is.
Yeah, we didn't see all this with
Don't you dare ask me about Rosebud.
Yeah. But that whole Rosebud thing, like in my original video about that got some traction or some view over on Mormon Stories before I got blocked to hell over there. That video, I ultimately said you still have to land on the point of it's a he said, she said situation ultimately. But honestly, in that situation, had it been corporate above 15 employees and he was some middle manager, a company could have easily come to the conclusion of we need to separate with John DeLynn here. But that would be more of like a corporate type whatever deal sort of thing. It might be a little different if he's the owner. But as we saw today, Project Veritas, I mean, that's James O'Keefe himself, and he got ousted from his own little probably about this size company thing because it had a board.
There? I didn't even.
You get a board like if you don't remain like the single owner and you do some sort of thing like filing or turning yourself into a 501c3, so you have to get a board. You put yourself in a situation where you can get voted out. You put yourself on Survivor Island.
Like John Schnatter got thrown out of Papa John's.
Yeah, you put yourself in these situations where you think that all your buddies and whatever are gonna be cool with your. But they could. I mean, these guys could oust John from this, but
sure. But then like to oust John would be to close up shop. Like you might as well just.
It feels like the same thing with James O'Keefe.
Yeah, exactly with James O'Keefe. But that stuff happens. It happens in the world once you give up that power to somebody. They're gonna, like Peterson always says, like the lesser chimps are gonna take out the big chimps sooner or later. Yeah.
But all she does this whole thing is. It's Flip mentioned BPD and like she catastrophizes everything. That's it. She catastrophizes and then she cries. And she'll take just normal life events and make them seem like I can do one of two things. I can think that okay, I have to come to terms with the reality that maybe I'm not that good at this and maybe I can't handle very much stress, or I can try to manipulate reality around me to make it look like everything's out to get me. That's catastrophizing, right? And so she takes these normal life events, like she talks so much about it's not even dying. Like
my
it was
dog
died.
My daughter's dog died last week.
And
it wasn't even dead. The dog wasn't. She said, my dog is 13 years old, and it's not only is that it's sick, but it's not just a dog. It's not just a dog. It's my daughter's dog, and it's not just my daughter's dog. It saved her life. My daughter would be dead.
I think it's like
and that was because he asked her to come in.
And you made me come into work.
Am I nuts?
She said, "Can you give me 24 hours notice?" For me to know that if I have to come into work,
and she makes that rule up.
It's supposed to be like Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Although they have already every Friday stay-at-home day, and then she arranged with them 2 extra stay-at-home days, so she had 3 out of 5 days of stay-at-home days.
Yeah, she wanted to learn to be a life coach. She's like, "Hey, can I stay at home to be a life coach?" And John was like,
"That
sounds like a super good idea for you to be giving people advice. Yes, do that."
Yeah. She asked if she could double dip and do the life coaching while on the clock and all that sort of
and they let her do that.
They let her do it. So, and then they keep giving her more and more roles. Like they let her become like not only be a controller, but she was in charge of the payroll and doing things. And
I'm sure it's because she asked.
But they said
no point to offer it. I'm sure she asked for it all. Because that's the other thing is like she asked for all these roles and then says, "I'm overwhelmed. How dare you do this to me?"
And then give me more. Because
she was going to be overwhelmed no matter what. That's one of the things that she would have done. She would have acted overwhelmed. That's the only way you can really prove that you're doing a really good job is I am overwhelmed. That's how I know I'm a hard worker.
Yeah. She's one of those for sure. But so I think did she mention her husband? I think she did.
Yeah.
She calls herself a single mother.
She says a single mom, but the husband's in the picture.
When she
says her husband's a firefighter.
When my husband's
a firefighter
unavailable,
and
it's like I'm a single mom.
like, yeah, he's gone for like 3 days. And on those days, I'm a single mother.
See,
And
that's
then
the
I
other thing
actually
where
found her on Facebook. I was like, how old are your kids? So I found her on Facebook. And I don't know how old her kids are. But like the youngest one is well into her teens. Obviously.
Easily.
I'm like, you don't even have to be a parent right now. Like you
Yeah.
gotta pay for their shit and make sure they don't do drugs. That's it. You don't.
But then
you don't have to find a
and she
babysitter.
pulled another
You
sneaky
just
thing.
leave. You say, "Oh, John wants me to go to work, so I can't cook you dinner tonight." And like,
So-
it's okay, Mom. I'm 16. I can cook my own fucking food.
She pulled a sneaky thing also, where in her own testimony, she's saying, "John, don't you know I'm a single mother?" Asking me to come to my job.
when
How
she
dare
wasn't.
And
that's
then
another method.
and then when John sends her an email that is totally polite and professional saying, "Hey, let's work around this single mom thing for you," and she's like, and then he brings up my single motherhood, like, bitch, you brought it up,
and you're not
you
a
brought it
single
up,
mom.
and then he said, "Let me help you," and I'm sure he knows, like, wait a second, haven't I met your husband?
This is why. No, this is why this whole like corporate speak kid glove thing drives me insane, because she can say anything and they have to like pretend that it's totally valid.
Well,
she has to say,
but they're
you don't know how
feminists.
That's
tough it is
where-
to be
They
a
have to because
single
they're
mother.
feminists.
Well,
But that's where I
you
say,
don't know how
yeah,
tough it is to be
they're
a single
overly
mother.
nice, or they're caught up in like there's all these things that kids will come into the workforce nowadays and drop them. Like I had something at my work where this kid dropped on a manager, "You're gaslighting me, you're gaslighting me," and the manager contacts me and says, "What's this gaslighting stuff?" And I have to like stop and explain. I'm like, it's nothing legally, so stop.
Yeah.
But they have. So in this situation, John says to her like, "Well, I kind of expected you to come into work today." And we didn't mention from the start of this that she's getting paid about $80K a year to do it.
Overpaid.
She's overpaid like $80K to do this, and she's getting like 3 days off a week while getting. And then
and
he asked her to come in.
Up. And she's apparently screwing up routinely.
She's screwing up
yeah.
from the start. They said that initially, right off the bat, she screwed up payroll and overpaid herself. Yet they let her keep doing that, and they keep giving her access to more accounts and keep giving her access to more contacts for accounts receivable and all that sorts of stuff. And she's messing stuff up like that.
I would think that if somebody came in where they're like, "Okay, you don't have any experience, but we like you. We like your attitude. You got spunk, kid." Like, and I know this happens in real world, is that person would be like, "Okay, we're going to hire you for this, even though you're below our minimum qualifications, but you're going to be on a 6-month probationary period, during which time we can separate for any reason. We don't have to tell you why. Like, we can just decide it's not working out, and maybe we'll tell you why or not." Like, you just think they would do something like that, that kind of thing. Like, we're going to start you out below the rate. And at 6 months, if you meet all these targets, then we're gonna pump you up to here and all that, and then we'll put you in, and you'll be,
below the rate and below the responsibility.
Yeah, but instead they're just like, "Oh, okay, you're
so then she
this
just
is your
keeps
first
going
time
and
in the role."
asking. She goes asking for more and more stuff. Like, I want to be a sidekick. I want to be one of the announcers or whatever.
I want to cry
panelists.
professionally.
I want to be on the thing, and I want to be in charge of the YouTube stuff. And they just keep giving it to her, and then they say, "Well, you're not performing at that," but then they keep giving it to her every time. But anyway, so John says to her like one time, like, "Well, I was kind of expecting you'd come into work yesterday," and then she said, "That sounds like you're threatening my job. That sounds like you're threatening my job." Saying, okay, so John, as the boss, can't say, "I was hoping you'd come into work today." And if he says that, that's one of those things that current day managers think is a thing. Like, "You threatened my job." Like, yeah, that's called a warning.
Yeah.
That's called a job warning. That's been part of jobs since we've had it.
That's what a job is. If you're not doing your job and constantly saying, "Well, my dog has been dying for 3 months, you can't expect me to come in from August until January," then maybe they'll threaten your job. Because he tries to, that's the thing, he tries to play the game. He's like, "No, I didn't in any way threaten." Like, who cares? You're the boss. You can absolutely threaten her job.
It's not
She's
a
not good at it.
retaliatory threat. Like, no, yeah, you can warn your, like, it's not a threat. Like, your performance is leading to a place where we have to terminate you. But did you guys catch also the thing he mentioned, that they like worked on an abortion special, and that
Yeah.
she demanded to be on it, and then apparently, like John said something about how like because of you fighting with Natasha, I think it became unusable, and so now I like have this thing where it's like, what do I want to see more, Batgirl
Yeah.
or
I want to see it so
the
bad.
unusable
He might
Mormon
release
stories
that
abortion? Because I would love to see.
Oh, I want to see Batgirl so badly.
But I
Yeah,
want
so
to
she
see Mormon
says-
Stories abortion panel that's unusable. 'Cause
I would
that
love to,
sounds
but
entertaining.
my dream is
I'll
the
become a donator.
Elliot
to do
Page Superman. That's what I want to see.
that. Elliot
Well,
Page
see, that would be-
Superman, and then
That would
unusable
be a
Mormon
great
Stories
fundraiser.
abortion panel.
If they put that up for bid,
We will put that up for bid, and we'll put you
Put it
over
up for bid.
100,000, Delenn, since that's a big deal for you.
put it up for bid so we can see that.
But yeah, the whole thing was ridiculous, and part of it was these guys as managers had about 15 different things from her that they should have just shut down.
She could have been
And then
fired.
been
It
like,
sounds like she
John
could have been
Delenn
fired
as
in
the
first
boss
90
is
days.
allowed to ask if you're coming into work tomorrow. Just types of things like that. Let's see, John Delenn quoting himself. Hold on.
Yeah, I just barely saw that. I pulled up Facebook, and the first thing I saw was just him quoting.
Oh, he just
himself.
barely quoted it right now.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Hold on a
It's
second.
not really related, but I thought it was funny.
Something that's also semi-tangential, but Clint Martin, the OSF board guy, I looked him up. Literally a used car salesman.
He just quoted him. So that's a dumb quote, but he quoted himself.
Yeah, he's like, John Delenn.
Wait,
What are the 200? Michael
Dr.
Scott
John-
quoting Michael
he should have
Scott.
put the doctor in his
I know, that's actually what I was
application.
going to say on his thing. You forgot doctor.
Maybe he's referring to a John Delenn that's not a doctor.
That's a different John.
That's another thing. He's like supposedly professionally trained in fucking psychology or whatever, and he didn't notice that this woman was insane.
Yeah, no, that's one that really gets me. It's like, I mean, I don't know. I was actually talking to my coworker because he also has a BPD ex-wife and a BPD mom, but he's just learning about BPD as like a diagnosis. And I just lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, but we were talking about this where, because I said like I've got radar for it, like I can smell it, I can tell instantly. And he's like, well, what is it? And I'm like, I don't know how to, like, it's an uncanny thing and it's subjective.
There's that catastrophizing.
Well, yeah. Well, one of the things it's like, because there's things that I don't know what to describe it. There's things in body language and tones. And like, one of the things that triggers me instantly is that I get these, like, I'll meet women and they give me these flashbacks to my big sister. And I just go, oh, wait, I know what's going on there, and it's uncanny. I don't know I can't put my finger on it, but yeah, like I swear that I can smell, like with women in particular, I can smell when you're BPD. I can tell. I get to work the other day, like a client came in and just like stood close to me and talked real fast about all of her nightmares, and I'm just like, I couldn't end the conversation fast enough. I'm like, I can tell what's going on here. You're nuts, and no, lady, I don't want to be your friend.
Well, I've said for a while that I think like if you could like look at the mass of what the overkill left is, it's like BPD in mass, like borderline personality disorder in mass. And if you look
feminism is border BPD just turned inside out and blasted onto the societal level.
Yeah. I always like to refer to a book called I Hate You, Don't Leave Me.
I Hate You, Don't Leave Me, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that just sentence alone. But look at this. This is a borderline mass trait. This thing right here that's been going on.
Oh,
that's kind of like a bit of a borderline thing that we're talking about. It's like, oh, how dare you look at me?
So me and Morgan were discussing this last night or the other night about, because she's watching some video where a commentator was watching one of the stupid ass TikToks where the woman pretends that the guy was looking at her or whatever, and the commentator starts saying the guy wasn't looking at you and he wasn't hitting on you when he came up and offered to help or blah blah blah. But my reaction to that was, well, like, what if he was? So, like, is that bad? Like, do you know how many love stories start with a guy working up the courage to approach a girl? Like, that's how most of them started before Tinder became a thing. And like, if he asks you out and you're not interested, you just say no. That's it. It's not bad for a man to come up to you in the gym and say, "We clearly have this shared hobby. I honestly, shot in the dark. I'd like to take you out to dinner." And is that bad?
I almost suspect it's been buried, but I know because I remember it because even 15 years ago when I heard it, it shocked me. I'm like, really? They allowed this on NPR? But there was a This American Life story. And it was about an American woman who lived in Tijuana because her Mexican husband had overstayed a visa and couldn't enter America. And so like she continued to work in no, not Tijuana, Juarez, the other side. So she continued to work in El Paso but live in anyway. And they start out, it's like, well, how'd you meet your husband? And she says like, well, I was walking to work at my job at the university, and he was a gang on a construction crew and he whistled at me. I just thought, oh, so is that back on the table then?
I saw this thing on Reddit one time, and they were joking about it, but of course Reddit probably clutched their pearls a bit about it. But they used to joke about like every single one of their grandpas' stories of getting their wives to marry them, their grandmas, were, I basically stalked her and harassed her for 6 months straight, went to her house, knocked on her window, talked to her parents, asked her parents if they'd make her take me out, that type of stuff. Followed her to the movies, and then she finally gave in.
But this is the what was she wearing thing taken to its logical conclusion, because obviously if a woman gets raped and the first thing you ask is what was she wearing, that's kind of shitty, like, because she shouldn't be raped anyway, that, like, she should avoid rapey situations as I should avoid crimey situations, right? But it's still bullshit that she got raped. But you can never ask, not just in rape cases, you can never in any situation ask, why was she wearing that? Because if those pants right there, I found out what they're called. They're called Brazilian butt lift pants. It's what they're called when you fucking buy them. And they go into your ass crack. And they'll get flesh colored ones, so it just looks like your ass. And you don't buy those pants if you're not looking for somebody, if you don't want people to notice your ass. I don't believe any of these. I do it for me because it makes me feel super pretty. Pretty to who? You'll never see it.
Yeah.
It's behind you. You want it to be
you're not that flexible.
Yeah, it's kind of like the old thing, like women going and dancing in dance clubs, and like they're just saying, "I'm just out dancing," and like those guys go up and hit. I'm like, can't you? We're just here to dance. Can't you just get them? We're just here to dance. What are you doing? But they get
I've been hearing about like an
Clooney
all-woman nightclub. I feel like the all-woman nightclub is just a business that would fail. And maybe it isn't. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know.
Well, it's because they're lying. They do like to go and get hit on. It's just that old. Remember that? Did you see that SNL skit about sexual harassment? And one of them is Fred Armisen, and one of them is Tom Brady, and they do the exact same things. And whatever Fred Armisen does is sexual harassment, and whatever Tom Brady does is perfectly fine. There's just truth to that, really. I mean,
for sure.
I would probably pull that one up, or get pulled off a live stream. YouTube.
So I was also telling my friend at work, you guys know the band Pulp. Remember Pulp? But they've got a song.
Barely. I remember the name. But...
Wonderful band, but they got a song that I think is like the best musical description of what it's like to be in a relationship with somebody with BPD. And the song is called Like a Friend, and I'll rip through this real quick. And it's got two parts. And the first part is the slow part. It says, "Don't bother saying you're sorry. Why don't you come in? Smoke all my cigarettes again. Every time I get no further, how long has it been? Come on in now, wipe your feet on my dreams. You take up my time like some cheap magazine when I could have been learning something. Oh, well, you know what I mean. I've done this before and I will do it again. Come on and kill me, baby, while you smile like a friend. Oh, and I'll come running just to do it again." And then the second part is the part where it gets really good. And like this is like BPD down, like, what it is to be in a relationship with somebody with BPD. "You are the last drink I never should have drunk. You are the body hidden in the trunk. You are the habit I can't seem to kick. You are my secrets on the front page every week. You are the car I never should have bought. You are the train I never should have caught. You are the cut that makes me hide my face. You are the party that makes me feel my age. And like a car crash I can see, but I just can't avoid. Like a plane I've been told I never should board. Like a film that's so bad, but I got to stay till the end. Let me tell you now, it's lucky for you that we're friends.
I think one of the
there it is.
best.
We've diagnosed Jen.
One of the best
yeah.
lyrics of BPD is from the Antlers. I think it's the Antlers, and they say, "I wish that I'd known from the day that we met the unpayable debt that I owed you."
Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah. So watch this. I think I'll have to interrupt it. So.
General Electric Films presents Sexual Harassment and You, a healthy guide to workplace settings.
Just pausing for the monkey.
Back in the old days, a workplace was a man's domain. Today, life is not as simple. Businesses are filled with working women.
Just to say, this is a point to Peterson. If you remember all that time back when Vice interviewed him, and it was like this whole thing of like Peterson saying, I don't think we've quite figured out how to work well, men and women in the working industry yet. Like it seemed like so strange and foreign for him to say that. But I think that's been one of the weird realizations of our age, of that we really still haven't figured out how to properly mesh men and women in the same working.
We haven't, because like if you go to my job, there's like any woman that goes there, if they want to not work, they can just not work. Well, anybody at all can not work, but like it's almost expected, like because there's this thing where no matter where you work, every job I've worked where you have to take out the trash, it's just kind of expected that the men that work there will do that. And contrary to popular belief, we don't get paid anymore. And it was always this annoying thing when you'd show up on shift to your like shitty fast food job, and it's just women there. And you're like, ah, fuck, I know I'm going to have to carry that heavy ass grease bag to the dumpster today. Like, I know I'm going to have to be the one to do that. And I'm not going to get any more reward for doing it because I can.
Well, I mean, that all comes down
but it
to
extends
all the little different
absurdity.
gender roles, you know, or even like Peterson brought up that people used as a smear against him so much in that interview is him asking like, should we regulate how much makeup people are using or whatnot, that sort of idea.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why do you put on makeup? Because you're trying to look well. Then
it's just for me. I wear makeup for myself.
Patriarchy made them do it.
It's so sad that Saturday Night Live, because like they're talented enough people that if like you actually let them let loose to zing on their own worldview, they can make better
Fred
stuff.
Armisen and Amy Poehler are great.
Yeah.
Let's review. Frank.
I feel
But
like
during the Trump years, they couldn't rip on themselves. They had to.
I feel like that there was a time that like Amy Poehler and Tina Fey were like feminist, but like more of the Christina Hoff Sommers.
Oh man, I love Tina Fey's
feminist,
writing.
and then like and
in
I feel
30
like
Rock and the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. I think she's so funny.
Yeah, I love those.
Unbreakable
Absolutely.
Kimmy Schmidt has stuff that rips on feminists so hard. It has.
She
stuff
rips
that
on. She's got that one character. Lillian's got that great bit where she's trying to stop the hipsters from gentrifying her neighborhood. She ties herself to a tree, and she's just like, that was where Vinny was killed in a drive-by, and they're trying to take that away from us.
Well, they in the Kimmy Schmidt, they have all that stuff where they're ripping on Me Too stuff, and they're saying all these things like all the women who are running the agencies now are running the movie studios don't know what the hell they're doing because they Me Too'd out all the competent guys, and there's a lot of stuff in that one. There's a whole episode where the girl goes to college and all the girls are feminists. I mean, Rachel
Dratch is the feminist literature professor.
Yeah,
you remember her character? And I just love when she talks like I just remember how I don't know it's where I learned the term lesbian sex death,
which is real. That's a real thing.
Yeah, long-term lesbian relationships. Like,
but they
6 months and then
They do a great job of ripping on that stuff. It's just, you know, that they kind of got this thing of like, oh, we better be careful.
She also had 30 Rock had that great prophetic moment where it's one of my favorite bits in 30 Rock where they're talking about they obviously wanted to hyper exaggerate stupid reality shows, so they came up with that show MILF Island, where
oh, that exists
15
Yeah.
MILFs and 38th graders are put on an island with no rules. And now we got MILF Manor coming out, which, by the way, is evil. Like
Yeah.
we watched the first episode of it last night because sometimes we'll watch trash reality, and holy shit, it's the worst thing I've ever seen. Like, or at least one of them, because it's like you see all these women. It's a bunch of 50-year-old women with daddy issues on an island with their sons who have mommy issues, and this generational. There's something you could probably learn from it. It's insane because the women. It's crazy to watch them so quickly revert from professional mom to like slut, you know, because they'll go there and they'll just blatantly pick out the guy they want, like, come to my room, come on, let's go fuck or whatever. And then the second the other mom does that to their kid, they're like, I just don't feel like that's very adult of her. I don't like the way she's treating my son like a sack of meat or whatever. And they flip back and forth so rapidly and they don't even know that they're doing it.
So you're saying those reality shows are full of vapid idiots? Oh wait, there's another episode of Mormon stories from this week with the Real Housewife of Salt Lake City. But let's finish this. Hello, just trying to add this in because this is what got copyright struck. Trying to just cut this up a little bit. Gonna do it again in another 15 seconds. Copyright. Break it up.
You can have sex with women at work without losing your job by following a few simple rules. Be handsome, be attractive, and don't be unattractive.
One more copyright. Hopefully no more out of this. Copyright.
That is entirely crazy. No, see, that's one of those things where I wonder though about like the kids that are really being drenched in this shit. Because like, you know, we grew up in the age where like, you know, we were getting blasted with feminist messages, but like no boy reaches the age of 13 without figuring that thing out. It absolutely matters. Is she into you, whether or not what you do is creepy or charming? It's really that simple.
You notice that at your first steak dance you go to
yeah, no, like
turns into it. There's always the girl like, that creep asked me to dance, and like, well, that's what they do. That's the idea. Steak dances.
No, well, like, yeah, and I remember like I even had friends that like in high school where it's like I used to remember they would comment, you know, because I mostly hung out with girls, and a lot of them with BPD. Looking back, and they used to always comment like, "Oh, that guy was totally hitting on me," you know, like the guy at the 7-Eleven. I'd be like, "No, he wasn't." Like
he said, you had nice hair.
Yeah, he said, "Here's your change. Have a nice day." like
you wouldn't get it. You're not a woman. You don't
yeah, it's like, no, there's nothing there, lady. Like, but okay. If you say
but it's 100% true at gyms. I mean, the guys who are attractive can go around hitting on people or whatever. And it was funny because I used to go to this gym in Sandy. I think I told you guys about it before. And I'd go every morning and it would drive me crazy because I'd see this guy in there who would just, it was kind of like Tom Brady there. He would just meander around to all the different women in the morning and just get them to stop working out and talk to him. But they'd all just go along with it. And I just see like, why did they come here and have him do this? And the guy drove me nuts. Like after a while, I was like, this guy's got to just screw off or whatever. Then after a bit, I realized he was the mayor of Sandy. And he was the mayor of Sandy going there every single morning and going around and just hitting on all the different girls. And I was just watching it from the top.
No, he wasn't hitting on him. He was campaigning.
He was, well, maybe that's what it was, but
you remember how Mary Quimby explains it.
Yeah.
Well, I want to hear the Mayor Quimby quote you're talking about.
Just remember that scene where they find Quimby in the motel with the prostitute. Vote for Quimby. That's his last word.
I'm campaigning right now.
But to simp for women a little bit right now, I've been in gyms a long time too, and I can absolutely see times like that. Like in that situation, that guy, that mayor looked like Tom Brady and was like that. And you could tell some of them like it, but you could tell some of them were also like, man, I come every morning and I'm trying to get the workout done, and stop coming and talking to me every single time I'm here. You could kind of see them like kind of rush it and be like, hey, I'm trying to get this done. And I've seen across the years many, many times. I actually think it's less of a problem, just like random creepy staring, which I'm sure they get, but more often what they get is some old doofbag going up and like starting to talk to them when they're in the middle of the set or something like that, and they're just trying to get stuff done.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
think
real. It happens.
Maybe the key to know if somebody is being a creep is if a man in the room and a woman in the room both agree on it. I've decided, because like I've I went to, my friend had a bachelor party like a year and a half ago. We went to Denver, and he wanted to go to a bunch of strip clubs, and I hate strip clubs. It's such a weird, cheesy place. Anyway, me and my other friend, we both don't want to be there, but he wanted us to support him or whatever. And so we're sitting there smoking cigars and having a conversation. We're talking about like Jordan Peterson. And this stripper comes
Jordan
up
Peterson in the strip club.
Yeah. It was really wild. It was weird. And so this one comes up to us and she sits next to us. And I was like, look, I'm not gonna pay for a dance or anything. That's just, she's like, oh, it's okay. I needed a break anyway. And then she's talking to us, and I could tell she's trying to convince me to get a dance. And I keep, anytime she pushes, I'm like, I'm not getting a dance. And I keep talking to my friend. And but then we see this guy standing up next to the stage, and he is like leaning over the stage, and he has this wild look in his eyes. And he's just like, I don't even know what it is. There's this horrible vibe about this guy. He keeps getting close to, like, trying to touch the women and grinding up against them and stuff like that. And the stripper sitting next to me was like, well, she, tries to do her thing. And I was like, does that guy come here often? And she broke character for a half a second to say, never be that guy. And then she started trying to get me to do a dance. And I thought she was done. Until she goes, yeah, it's just, since, a lot of these girls, they like to go after the guys that are here for boobs and stuff. They always send me to give dances to the intellectual type guys.
The guys who just
want to have a smart conversation. I was like, oh, fuck off. Are you serious? Right? You think I'm gonna be like, oh,
that's number 7 on the list of 20. Like it's on a door in the changing room on the go out like pickup lines for whatever they call Johns.
Yeah, I'm
glad I'm not somebody who wants to live their life like that, but strip clubs do not make sense to me. They just don't, especially in an age of free porn. Like back in the day, maybe.
No, so I've decided, I think that strip clubs, they scratch the same itch that OnlyFans scratch, right? Not the same itch that porn scratches. Maybe a little bit, but because people who watch a lot of porn, but not OnlyFans, they do not understand people who pay for OnlyFans. And I'm one of them. I do not understand. I kind of understand. Like I would never do it, but I'm starting to kind of get what it is. It's usually guys that really, really want a connection and have no fucking way to get it. And because there's so many stories about strippers from like the 90s talking about guys that get overly attached to them and start bringing them roses and shit like that and wanting to date them. And it's the same with OnlyFans, like with these ultra simps that pay thousands of dollars to OnlyFans to go give him a hug or send him a new graphics.
South Park hit it out of the South Park episode Raisins. It was a home run.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
22 minutes. They just tied it up perfectly.
Anyway, like all the way back with my experience in HR stuff, and it even took me a while to realize this, but if you realize it here with John, or even that video of Saturday Night Live, or the whole Me Too movement, or the Jordan Peterson thing, is you can go study all the HR law you want to study and all the procedures and details to go through. The real answer is we have no idea. We still have no idea where lines are. We still have no idea where where somebody's across the border or not, or if something's inappropriate staring, or somebody's talking to somebody, or how to really ultimately judge a situation, or when somebody really should be ousted from a position. It's all such just general judgment calls. And then there's, of course, obvious things. There's obvious things, but all the middle ground stuff, you walk around thinking there's a handbook for it. There's no freaking handbook for it. There's no handbook for any of it.
Yeah.
It cracks me up, like, I don't know, like being an expert in HR, or like, especially think like getting a degree in it is kind of like getting a degree in education. Like, the fuck do you know?
Yeah,
you're a teacher now? You went to school to be a good teacher, and now you're good at managing 300 students a year? It's like,
well, one of the
like HR, like, oh, you got a degree in communications, now you know how to adjudicate workplace fights?
So you have to do, I had to go get certifications and that sort of stuff, but that still doesn't mean like you're some great.
No, but it's the law. No, like you learn the law, right? That's like what you learn.
You learn the law.
But
and that's what I'm saying. That sort of stuff is stuff that one of the good things to know about the law, like where John DeLynn and these guys could have benefited from knowing the law, is knowing where that girl couldn't trample them because they weren't breaking the law, but they thought maybe they were, because nowadays in the Me Too social media world, you think, well, this woman said she felt threatened. I might be breaking some law that could,
Yeah. Well,
and you just go, no, there's no law.
Because they are feminists. Because, I mean, never mind the law. They think that to take her out of her job is patriarchy, right?
Yeah. Like, it's corporate. It's toxic corporate. It's corporate toxic corporatism.
And it doesn't matter that she's like, because that's the other thing. It's like, I mean, these are people who don't believe in, like, they don't believe in meritocracy, right? They shit on that.
So some of that, is, what's good about like our current knowing the law and what it still is in our current era is important, because half of what all this woke stuff has done has tacked on a bunch of pseudo social laws that aren't real. There's pseudo social laws everywhere that aren't real. You can even look at it all the way down to like the ways they kind of try to overpressure people for the pokey for the coof, or the way they overpressure people. There's all sorts of things that seemed like laws, or seemed like, well, we can actually do this. And you go, no, you can't actually do that. No, the law really is, you cannot discriminate for skin color in your hiring process. And all those little different things, you can find a million of them at different schools that say we're only hiring blacks right now. No, that is illegal. All it takes is for somebody to take it up with a lawsuit, and they just have to bring it up.
So I was thinking about this because, like, I was thinking, like, if I ran a small company, if I was John DeLynn, and if I just simply said, like, in the hiring interview, where it's like, just to be clear, we don't tolerate feminist bullshit here, right? I can do that because feminist is not a protected class. And if they want to claim that it is, then they're copping to it being a church, right? A religion.
Yeah. So
isn't that a thing? Like, is that legal? Like, could I do that if I ran my own company and just say, like, look, as a policy, we don't tolerate feminist bullshit?
Yeah, it's not a religion unless they went and said it's a religion.
And
they
so that's
claim it as like a sex.
Can you put them in the bind and say, like, no, because you're censoring my beliefs, and then, like, are you admitting that it's a church, a religion? Like, because that's how it seems
there
to me.
In the Civil Rights Act is race, religion, color. They do those two things separate: race, religion, color, sex, and there's a fifth one. It's
orientation.
No, orientation's not in the original Civil Rights Act. It got recently added, and the person who wrote the affirmative action on it was Gorsuch. And Gorsuch, a lot of people were irritated at Gorsuch, saying, like, why is this guy assuming what should have been in there from the beginning on this sort of thing? So it's now added only recently to have been interpreted by the Supreme Court that it could also mean that. But the original one...
there's this... Sorry, go.
No, it was just those 5 things.
Troy Levitt's story. I believe that. I heard a new rice.
I had a rumor at Avalanche that one of our new UView interns complained to HR that she saw a rice cooker at a coworker's house, and that was inappropriate because the coworker wasn't Asian. And the thing is, like, there's a million of these, but the only reason they get any traction is because places like those Silicon Valley places that we know Troy worked at let it be part of their policy. It's not part of the law.
It's also funny that they've never been to South America.
It's not part of the law at all.
if the HR person, like, because you imagine, like, there's probably a whole HR structure.
The HR and
There's
the
probably
corporate
a
environment
low-level-
accept that.
There's
Yeah.
probably a low-level HR person. Like, the senior HR director might be in his 60s and doesn't know anything about this shit. But 4 levels below him, this HR rep gets this complaint and goes, "Oh, that's cultural appropriation. I
and
know
they
what to do
think
with
cultural
this."
appropriation is the thing now, but then those Silicon Valley companies say, yeah, we're going to go ahead and make that part of our company environment. So they make it as part of their, maybe more one of their operational expectations.
And
But
this
no,
is
it was
how-
never legal. It was never the law that you had to go accepting this stuff. But
It's
they
also
go
kind of funny
adding,
that she said at a coworker's house. It
yeah.
wasn't
Heck
even
yeah.
like the workspace. Like that's how insane this shit is getting. There's this great quote in Atlas Shrugged where it says, "In any compromise between food and poison, it's only death that can win." Now there's a difficulty in like finding out when you're dealing with poison, right? But once you realize you're dealing with poison, why fucking compromise with it? That's this whole thing I was thinking with when they're talking to Jen. She's like, they're like trying to compromise with her. They're trying to be like, well, maybe he
And
did
they
wrong
don't
here, maybe he
know-
did wrong. No,
They
she's
don't know where the
fucking
line is.
poison.
They don't know where they can, at least at first, because they obviously got around to terminating her. But they don't know where the line is where they can say, "Hey, lady, shove it." Like you can't be
know.
doing all this.
You're
I'm still hung
ridiculous.
up on this rice cooker thing and the rice just
know.
because like the other thing that's so funny about it
He was
is
watching
that
anime
it's
too.
it's a stupid old trope. Asians and rice. Oh, like what do you call a Japanese or Korean car? Oh, it's a rice burner. Asians and rice, right? Like, and I grew up with all these Asians and rice jokes, but like I'm also Brazilian.
Yeah.
And like rice. Like we put rice in everything. In fact, like I
There was
even
not a
laugh at my
single
Brazilian
day.
cousins because my Brazilian cousins have like
Was it-
they immigrated 20 years ago, and they're pretty assimilated, and they celebrate and cook up a big Thanksgiving dinner, all traditional American, and a big bowl of rice. Because
Yeah.
Brazilians, like,
There's
they will not
not-
serve a meal without rice, and
Oh,
like they can't not do it.
There absolutely was not
cultural
a single
appropriation.
day I spent
So
in
it's cultural
Brazil
appropriation.
that I didn't eat rice.
Yeah, no, they will be serving birthday cake and make sure there's rice. Like it's just
Mhm.
but these idiots, like they're so stupid that they take the dumb trope and they think that that's reality.
Oh yeah,
And the
they're,
trope
well, they're
is
the most
just that.
stereotypical people. It's like my wife and I have this running joke now. It's one of our favorite jokes ever. It's from fucking Dylan Mulvaney, right? Talking about how, like, day 38 of girlhood, I was really pissed off at my friend and I couldn't remember why. And then I remembered, oh yeah, it's because I'm a stupid fucking idiot, irrational woman. And so now, like, me and my wife will say that to each other all the time. She'll be like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
he's just
I was pissed off at you. I cried the other day, and I remembered it's because I'm a dumbass idiot woman who can't think." Like Dylan Mulvaney has the most sexist ideas of what a woman is, and he
Which
tries
is-
to jump into all of them. And that's
That's
the same
what
thing
I
with
noticed
this.
those
with
Excel
thinking,
Masters
only Asian
videos.
people can have rice. Like,
well, it's Colin Wright on Reality's Last Stand, a good Substack to read about pushback on trans issue stuff. Just points out that in general, the concept of queer theory's idea of what a woman is a stereotype of what an idiot woman is. It's
Yeah.
and-
Yes, they don't even pick like a really good example of a woman, like a good female archetype. They take the worst aspect.
yeah.
I know. So I was like, I expected him to read my mind, and I didn't understand why until I was like, oh yeah, I'm a goddamn idiot woman.
Like, well, yeah, that's the other thing. Like, so Dylan Mulvaney's like, oh, I want to be a woman. What is a woman? Well, they're
Stupid.
pathologically.
She frolics.
But no, they're pathologically preoccupied with cosmetics. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That's a great.
I
Yeah,
legitimately.
everybody loves those.
For a moment, I legitimately thought that he was a troll. Like right about up until he went to Biden, I was like,
Until he
definitely a
started
troll.
getting surgeries. Yeah.
yeah.
The,
Once he got surgeries, I'm like, he's definitely not a troll. But like, the frolicking thing, that's like a 7-year-old's perspective on what a woman is. Who, like, a 7-year-old who has only watched like Minnie Mouse or some shit like that.
I just remember the
Yeah.
fifth one is it's national origin. The original Civil Rights Act was only those 5 things: race, color, gender, sex, not gender. They didn't say gender. Race, color, sex, religion, national origin.
So age
And then
isn't one.
age came later as its own separate.
So age was added.
Oh,
Yeah, age was added on, and it's only discrimination for people who are 40 or above. You can discriminate for somebody being too young. You're allowed to do that.
Speaking of education, my wife and Uber Mormon both urged me to go out and get a degree in gender studies.
Oh
After-
yeah, you had
after
a
I got-
run-in with
Yeah, I got me and Jonathan
with
both got
experts.
banned by Taylor Petrey or whatever his name is.
Taylor
I didn't even know I
Petrey
was
is an
friends-
expert gender theory. I've talked about him before on this.
What are
He's
the
the guy who
chances
brought
I'm
up like
pre-blocked?
postmodernism. He brought up went to Sunstone and brought up postmodernism and how Mormons need to embrace postmodernism to move into their future. But then he's also highly involved with a bunch of that Mormon gender stuff. He wrote Tabernacles of Clay, if people have heard that.
Yeah.
book. And Jared had a run-in with him this week. I forget what the post was.
Treason's
just him
greetings
saying-
to all who celebrate.
Yeah.
I just
all he
scrolled, so I
said,
haven't
yeah,
been
it was-
pre-blocked.
On
was,
January 6th, he said treason's greetings.
No, it wasn't
But-
that one. It was the one where he just said
You can't
Ron
see it without being
DeSantis
his
is a
friend. I tried to
fascist.
get. It's
Yeah.
not there. You can't see without being his friend. I tried
you
to get
gotta
on
be
it
his
so I could get blocked too.
I don't want to be.
But he said that, and then Jared asked him, "Well, what's a fascist?" And then he pointed to Jason Stanley, which Jason Stanley is a joke. He's
he is
one of Twitter's
nuts.
major jokes about a guy who wrote a book on what fascism is. So if you see somebody
But I
trying
do
to
have
push
to point out
on you the
like,
definition of fascism from Jason Stanley, just know that Twitter's busted jokes on that guy up and down, left and right till the end of time.
I do have to point out that this is the first time ever that I got banned, like I got blocked by somebody because of Jonathan Streeter's snark. rather than-
I think
It's always-
Jonathan kind of got me blocked from Dan McDada McClellan, which that's another thing that's happened since we've last been on. McDada McClellan, that's a before the
McDada.
phone, that's Christopher's thing. He goes, McDada, he says McDada resigned from his church position, but he left his church position. So I bet you we're going to be able to. I predicted now that McDada is away from that, he's going to become one of our main lolcows for sure.
Oh
Probably
yeah,
more than
he doesn't
Billy.
have anything holding him back now. I wonder if he's gonna still pretend to be Mormon. That's all I want to know.
So on that thread, which I'm sure McDada was watching or something, or could have watched it or checked in later, but Jared was pressuring him on what the concept of fascism is, and then you mentioned gender ideology or something like that.
Yeah, I said
And,
gender ideology, and then I had two, and it was funny because they both jumped on me and started like, "Oh, what is gender ideology?" And I was like, "Well, I think it's this, these ideas about what is gender and how gender is a social construct, and it falls generally under queer theory." And like, "Oh, queer theory? Is it theory, or is it ideology? Which one is it? Get your things straight." And I was like, "Okay, here, let's just go to a specific example. I don't want that sex is a social construct. I don't want that idea being taught in public schools. How about that? Just that." And they just kind of ignored that. And Taylor reminded me, he said, "I'll have you know, you're talking to two gender studies professors." Like, oh
Divinity.
no!
Okay, so then
Divinity school.
guess how I
graduate
know-
gender professor.
guess how I know that you guys are hack fraud liars. Because if I
you
was
have guilt to
saying
your
some
own
dumb
authority?
bullshit about mathematics or astrophysics, the astrophysicist doesn't say like, "Oh, do you know Kepler's law?"
Yeah.
No, they say, "No, let me explain Kepler's law to you."
Yeah, and if
No, I
you
got
know
very
Kepler's
specific.
law,
I don't-
if you know Kepler's law, they don't go, "You're not allowed to say Kepler's law.
Yeah,
you're not
allowed to. How
don't have
dare
the
you
credential.
mention orbital mechanics?
You need the credential to talk
benighted
of this."
rube, you troglodyte. Yeah, no, it's such fucking bullshit gatekeeping. It's like that's the thing. It's like, I mean the bullshit you guys talk about every day, all the time. That's what I'm talking about. Go through your dumb fucking timeline. That's the ideology. That's what you could say to these hacks. Like,
I
that's
think-
it right there.
I remember I said it to one time. I bet you well, I'd probably have to say that I have some sort of a special minority status of being a non-binary or something like that. But if I said something like that, from my grades and my degrees and my history, I could get into Harvard Divinity School. I promise you I can.
I might be able to. Holy shit, they got a 50% acceptance rate.
Yeah, it was way up there.
That's
We looked it up and
crazy.
we're like, what the hell? And that stuff that Dan McClellan goes and like puts all his things on the back of the wall, like, whoa, look at me. Like he had to go to England or something like that. So that's some skin in the game. But other than that, you're dumb freaking and I'm not a credentials either. Like Dan McClellan's smart. He's read some stuff of history of Bible stuff. I'm not saying he hasn't on that for sure. And
Dan
knows
McClellan is
languages.
he's the smartest of all the lol cows that we deal with.
You
Yeah.
have to be smart.
But
to be
your
a
degrees aren't impressive. They just are not impressive to
really
me
not.
in any way, shape, or form, especially from a divinity school. Sorry.
That's
And,
one of those things I always
humanities. I have humanities degrees. I only bring them up to tell you that I also think they're bullshit. They're
Yeah.
bullshit. Like I learned 10
That's
times
why-
more after humanities grad school than I did in humanities grad school.
That's one thing I love
10
about
is 10 is a small amount.
Bob Price is because like Bob Price has 2 PhDs, and you'll never hear somebody shit on university's credentials like he does. Like he got he's a double doctor, and he even mentions because like apparently in Germany there is a practice that if you have, because in America if you have a PhD or a medical degree you're a doctor. In Germany if you have multiple doctorates, you get a doctor for every one. So if he goes to Germany, he's Herr Dr. Price.
No, that's my German teacher in high school. He told us that like Germans maintain all of their titles, and so he told us you have to call me. His last name was Copeland, and he'd say you have to call me Herr Professor Dr. Kaiser Copeland. And it was a joke. He didn't actually hold those titles, but
because he wasn't actually the king.
So
No,
I'm gonna say
he wasn't
like,
the Kaiser.
I'm gonna
That's
brag.
why my wife and Uber Mormon both told me I should just as a joke get
get a
gender
graduate
studies.
degree. I mean, I
Yeah,
thought of doing
and-
the same thing for real.
And because
I really did.
because my last comment to Taylor Petrey was like, because it was clear he was about to block me, so it's just like, well, I don't know, maybe I ought to go get myself one of those gender studies degrees so that I can appeal to my own authority too. And then
What I say is
he
like-
replied to me and Jonathan and immediately blocked us. That's their
So
favorite
you couldn't
thing
even
to do.
see the
Reply and
reply.
block.
Yeah.
It's the McClellan. That's what they do.
Yeah, that's a McClellan. And they're block happy as hell.
Do you know who Steve Shives is?
Oh yeah, I
Oh,
forgot about
man.
that, dude.
Boy,
I know. I forgot about him.
Here.
I forgot about him.
Christy
right until
Winters
Flip
and
said,
Steve Shives.
is right when Flip said, "I wonder if I'm preemptively blocked." All of a sudden, a flood of Steve Shives.
Oh yeah, I
because-
remember that.
So many people, like when they found out about him, they're like, "I'm gonna look at," and so many like moderately famous YouTubers were like, "Oh yeah, I'm preemptively blocked by Steve Shives. I've never talked to this guy."
So I'm gonna brag and dump on myself at the same time, real quick. I graduated summa cum laude from humanities. You know, I had 1 A- in all of school, and that A- I know was the teacher's fault because I went and talked to him about it and said, "What the hell happened?" And he said, "Oh, you missed this quiz on this day." And I said, "No, I know that didn't happen because I know I didn't miss one single day of school. You lost the quiz." But anyway, I graduated with that level. But beyond that, I don't think if I went to STEM, I would not be summa cum laude. I'm sure I would have gotten like some math test, a B plus or something like that. You know what I mean? It's all you had to do in humanities shit. I had papers that were A's that had marked red to hell from like little like typo errors because I did them quickly. But I figured out that all you had to do is regurgitate to the teacher the shit they wanted to hear. And if
So
you
what you're
regurgitated to them the
saying-
shit they wanted to hear, they gave you an A.
The only
wrote
way to
one
fail
time-
seminary is to not show up or not believe.
Yeah, there's
Or
one
act
time
like you don't believe.
my ex-wife and I were in the same class in an undergraduate, and this is an academic fraud I'm admitting to right here. But I did both of our papers. I did both of our papers in one night, and all I did was like change some of the X's and O's, and they noticed. They said these seem like the same paper coming from you guys. A. They're like so like okay. Like all you had to do was
So what you're
regurgitate.
saying is that what you're saying is that you're smart, but not Bill real smart, right?
I'm not as smart as Dan. I'm not Dan McClellan smart. No,
Well, I think
I'm
brought it
saying
up a
I have
couple-
no reference because I know in humanities world it's just about appeasing ideologues. I promise you that.
Did I
all it
already
is.
tell you guys that that Groucho Marx bit where he says the secret to life is honesty and fair dealing. If you can fake those, you've got it made. That's grad school. It sounds to be like humanities. Just fake it. As long as you can fake it.
I bet you I could get pretty good grades in STEM, but I bet you it wouldn't come out as like that.
You would have to study.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you have to work to learn math.
But I bet you would have landed in like depends on the field and how hard the field was, but it probably would just landed like high 3.6s, 3.7s or something like that. It wouldn't have just been so perfect because there's a lot of times where my perfect came from I knew that I was too busy and I pumped this paper out like a mofo. It wasn't because I was like some pristine little perfect student. I pumped the paper out, didn't have time to do it, but I knew if I just said the thing the teacher wanted to hear, they were just going to give me an A. I knew it.
I have tried,
and that wouldn't work in the STEM world. I couldn't like suddenly just like pump out a test for them.
I've tried to find your published works. I've tried to find them, and I can't dig them up.
I have one, and it's one of those things.
Do you know where we can find it? I wanted to try to have it, and then I wanted to spring it on you on one of.
I've got it somewhere here, but this is the things that they have. You have to go to those university databases. They pay for the databases, and you have to pay to get into the databases. And the databases have more papers than you could imagine in your life. Like, tell me the random book, like Madame Bovary, whatever, Madame Butterfly, or whatever. There's 800,955,000 papers on that, and they're considered published, but they just get sold into these stupid databases and get called like they actually like they say publish or perish or that sort of stuff. But that's why I say, like, I used to joke when James Lindsay was first doing his stuff that he got around to like all like the major works that are like actually published and out in the library more than I ever could. But I promise I read more downstream papers than he ever could have read, because I read everybody's downstream papers trying to figure out the lingo of how to type one up myself. Like I almost like had it to a point because I read so many dissertations and master's theses that's like in the same way Lindsay made his major papers, I was starting to like look at it and say I could just probably make one of these thesis papers in a couple weeks or something like that. As I started like sorting out and like figuring out like the codes to it and all that sort of stuff. But that's how it's published. It's published inside these databases that you have to pay for, that nobody uses except for those humanities people themselves. But it's all just creating this fake laundering, like Brett Weinstein calls it. It's idea laundering. It's just regurgitated shit. So I say, like, Foucault, you go and talk to people, and these people like throw the shit in your face. And I usually joke, like, how come when I went to Spanish literature grad school, why can I sit here and talk your ear off about Foucault and Derrida and all that stuff? Why did that happen? Like, I didn't ask for that. I didn't go sign up for that to do that sort of thing. And then there's like
signed up for Spanish literature, literally. You literally signed up to get a master's degree in Spanish literature, and you spent all your time in French postmodernism.
Yep. And you just go and write.
Talk about bait and switch.
But you get trained these lenses. James Lindsay had this recent one called his bullet points called lenses. And I was going to say, like, that was the first thing that I learned. Like, that was the very first thing where I realized I wasn't in Kansas anymore. I'll pull up the thing here.
I remember way back when we first started talking about all this, and took me forever to really crack into what you were trying to get at. But I remember that's one of the earliest things that I was able to cotton on to, was you talked about the lens things. And I was like, oh yeah, because I've heard people use this lens thing. And like you, I thought it's like, oh yeah, I thought the metaphor was like, it's like a lens, you use it, and then you take it off and go back to
you're supposed to be able to take off the lenses. That's why they put on the cover of their book of Cynical Theories. I think I got it. Oh, the cover. Oh, I'll show it.
What are you drinking there, Jared, in your decanter? Gin?
It's got the lens
It's
on
New
that right
Amsterdam
there.
vodka.
Oh.
And you're supposed to be able to like take it
I'm
off.
so judgy.
Well, if you think about it, you're supposed to take it on and put it off. That's why it kind of gets in that thing where they were trying to make fun of Jared for saying like, you don't know the difference between an ideology and a theory. And the real difference of it's supposed to be that a theory is something that you for sure should be able to take off or not, whereas an ideology is something that is in you like a religion. But no, these theories get welded on as hard as any sort of ideology does. So your distinction is bullshit anyway.
That's
But
why I go very specific with this shit, because they do the same thing with CRT. When you say I don't want you to teach CRT in school, they're like, "Well, CRT is not taught in schools. It's a college level legal theory.
It's a law school thing."
And
That's
and
another
then
thing.
they want
It's
you to
just a
define
law school
CRT.
thing. Like, what do they mean? Like, first of all, when they say that it's just a law school thing, what do you mean just a law school thing? Is everything that goes on in law school just a law school thing? Or does it have real world implications?
At some point, you're like, well, fuck you. Okay, let's go with the specific teaching of CRT. The fact that racism only applies to whites and it applies to all whites. That's a bona fide teaching of CRT.
Yeah.
Do you think that specific teaching is something that ought to be taught in schools? Yes or no? And they don't want to say it because they want you to get stuck in the stupid word games. That's what Taylor Petrey did to me. He kept trying to say, like, oh, is ideology being taught in schools? I was like, no, let's talk about this specific thing that I don't like about gender ideology. And it's this idea that sex is a social construct. I don't think that's true. I'm positive that's not true. And I don't want that specific thing being taught in school. Tell me why it should be taught in school. And he's like, you don't know what theory and ideology are.
Well, but part of it, though, also, I think with some of these people, like, I don't know, these guys are experts. I think they're throwing sand in your eyes. With a lot of these guys, I think it's, like, I'm kind of losing. Actually, my metaphor is breaking down. But these guys remind me of, anyway, like Mormons with their you get a planet when you die, where it's like, everybody knows you get a planet when you die. That's just the thing with Mormonism, right? Unless Mike Wallace is asking Gordon Hinckley on 60 Minutes. And then it's Gordon Hinckley going, I don't know that we teach that.
That's exactly what he said.
They play this.
I don't know.
I got so mad at that when I first saw that, because Hinckley was my prophet growing up, man.
I remember,
and I liked him even after I left Mormonism. I still liked him, and then I watched that, and I was like, "Fuck you, man! You got all these people on the ground floor fighting this shit with this weird ass doctrine, coming to terms with it and trying to explain it to people, and you're just."
That's a lot what these guys are doing to you, where they're like, "Well, I don't know that all white people are racist. I don't."
So then they play
CRT does.
They play a Mott and Bailey game with it because they call it theory, and the theory out of humanities supposedly means something that you can take or leave if you agree with it or don't agree with it. But then they also want to play the game of going, no, but we actually kind of think it's as solid as the theory of gravity, and you can't disagree with it. So that's why this theoretical lensing, it was the first thing that got exposed to me. I was asked to continue into grad school because of my grades, and I didn't have much going on at the time. I was young and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I just kind of went, okay, because it sounded cool to go teach undergrad Spanish classes. And if you notice on here, we like language and we like messing with that sort of stuff, and that's what made me go, oh, that sounds neat. And I can kind of do this literature stuff too. So far in the undergraduate stuff, we had some like overviews of postmodernism, but then I got into graduate school and suddenly I get introduced to this theoretical lensing. And I'm now not allowed to watch anything unless I view it through the lens of a theory.
Did you learn here, just real quick, in Spanish grad school, did they teach any of this in Spanish? Like, how do you say theoretical lensing in Spanish?
Yeah, you said it like that.
How do you say it?
Well, they didn't. So back then, they wouldn't use the word lensing at all. They were hiding the ball of what we were doing. They just say like, hay que usar una teoría para, just saying like use the theory to review or to write a paper. Like, and when you go write this paper, use the theory.
So did you read Foucault in Spanish?
No, You read Foucault somewhere else, but then when that's the other thing is my published papers in Spanish.
But I mean, but you read Foucault in English in your Spanish literature master's,
and then you go add the stuff into the paper, right?
That reminds me, I want to read Paulo Freire in Portuguese. That's what we should do for it.
Yeah, that's kind of some of it too. Is like you don't realize that there's these, especially at that age, you don't realize there's all this extra language game going on in that philosophy, and you have no idea what's even happening. And you're suddenly told that because we all know Foucault better right now at that time frame, like, and you're some young 20-year-old, like, what the hell is this stuff? Like,
I'd never heard of it before you. Like, I mean, like, it was like when you started talking to me about like Foucault was a guy, he was a philosopher, blah blah blah, and it was one of those things where it's like, that kind of sparked like, yeah, I've heard this name before, but it's just like, you hear noises.
This is like mid 2000s, so
yeah, and about this.
And Judith Butler, like, so you're supposed to read it through that, or you were supposed to read it through a Marxian lens. So you're supposed to choose one of these theorists, and they gave you the categories. You basically had Foucault or feminism or masculinities, which was feminism, and
all of these are neo-Marxist.
They were all neo-Marxist, or you could you could do a direct Marxist reading. You could do a Freudian reading, which if you did a Freudian reading, it was also supposed to lean Marxist. And then from that point on, you were only allowed to write papers about, so then we'd watch Last of Us or something, and then we'd have to do a Foucauldian reading of Last of Us or something like that, and write the paper and put it out. And we just started pumping that stuff out like again and again and again and again and again. And that's all they do. And there's more of those papers than you can ever imagine. And then if you submit one to a conference, I submitted one to a conference, that's where it gets published. It gets declared published. But then, like Peterson pointed out, people who get this shit published, like you've heard the Pareto distribution for, like 1% of the people who get published papers get actual citations. Well, that's because the papers like these are the ones that there's a billion of them, and they're never going to have a citation whatsoever. And half of the deal is trying to find a book that somebody didn't do a Foucauldian reading already of. And so then you get some new thing like critical race theory, and they say, "Oh, you're not supposed. We don't teach theoretical race theory. It's just something you learn over in law." No, you get told to go do a critical race theory reading of, as soon as it becomes like the soup du jour. Now, everybody out of Brown University, out of Yale University, out of everywhere, the whole humanities world is going to start pumping out. Here's a critical race theoretical reading of Shakespeare. Here's a critical race theory, and then they go read all the primary works through this stuff, and they pump it out, this idea laundering, faster than you could ever imagine. And it's a factory. It's a religious factory. That's all there is to it.
That's because I mean, I never finished college, but I remember English 1010 at community college. I remember a lot of things about it, not least of which is just that the professor seemed to not know very much. But also, like, the big thing was write a critical analysis. Because, like, I thought, like, I was excited for English 1010. Because, like, what I actually wanted to learn, what I thought English 1010 would be, was the nuts and bolts of the English language. But it was immediately stuff like, here's a magazine, cut something out of the magazine, and it said, do a critical analysis of. And all I remember was do a critical analysis of, like, the way I read it, like, was find something wrong with it and say, this is wrong because, and I just kind of intuited
Paulo Freire because of some sort of
and I intuited this, right? And I remember that I did my homework, and I remember shitting it out, and basically, like, thinking, like, consciously, I'm like, I'm ripping off Matt Groening's Life in Hell right now. Like, this is what I learned from Matt Groening. Like, I didn't know that he was doing that, and I don't think he was intending to do, because his stuff was genuinely funny. I loved Life in Hell. It was a major influence on my worldview and sense of humor. But, like, and I just remember shitting out this college project, and I got it back, and the professor wrote, "This is excellent" on it. And I remember, like, that was for me, like, just a real, like, I can't think of the word right now, but the scales fell from my eyes, but real disillusionment, that's the word. Disillusionment with university, where it's like, God damn it. Like,
you just have to get the morals down. You just get the morals down. And that's the
Exactly.
same with these tech companies who are adding these moralistic laws on top of the laws that are already on the books, the constitutional laws. Everything is adding a new moral to stuff. And that's why I keep going and saying that we're actually kind of, as Dawkins said, if all our past religion, our Puritanism, was a meme or a virus, that virus has just mutated into this next meme, and that's what this whole thing is. And it's they go and say that these moral ideas added into all your work shit, these moral ideas added into all your school shit, they even said, they made that announcement in the Washington Post or the New York Times recently, saying that, hey, we need to stop with this objectivity shit, and we need to really add our morals into our reporting. and I'm not making that up. There was some thing. So what's this? Navigating medical gaslighting?
This I can't
it's a
believe.
sponsored
This is
ad
amazing.
I got.
Is this for real?
I just got this right now. I keep getting these
Pfizer.
sponsored Pfizer ads.
We partnered with She Knows.
What is that? Oh, God. You can find helpful tools. Is this a video or just like is that the entire thing? Learn more. What's medical gaslighting?
It's all too
What are the chances that it's actual gaslighting?
She Knows.
Zero? There's going to be
knows.
there's zero chance that this is talking about
She
an actual
Knows.
gaslighting effect, right?
.com. Where is? Oh my God, this is too.
I should have clicked on the link when I had it.
Oh, I'm looking it up right now. Mama y más. There's a special section in Espanol.
I'll pull up a couple other memes that I had that I found today. Here's one. Look at this. This is the one things I said originally from like all logical positivism for the religious people, but for everybody else. Look who it is. We got
Hey,
a guest.
Hey, it's that guy.
I don't know why my videos stretch. You just have to ignore it. It makes me look thinner, so I'm not complaining.
That's not my fault,
Yeah,
is it?
You've been converted.
you
It's
usually
like
you usually look really fat.
you look like you look like
Sorry,
when they would.
it's just the evil apostate was so cruel to me last time that I had to take it out
That's
on
okay.
you.
I deserve it.
He looks like remember when they would show classic 70s movies on TV in the 90s and they'd have to take the widescreen to smash it so everybody was tall and skinny?
Oh shit!
He
Go
looks
back.
like Dr. Zhivago.
Is that on my side or is that your video?
No, it's just you're on the discount version of StreamYard, so
so
it
it is my
took me to low 4:3
Ew.
aspect ratio.
Are you being burned on your stream?
I was just talking. I was just telling these guys
Yes.
about how for once on Facebook, it was your snark that got me blocked from somebody. Because I was trying to channel
blockage.
my inner Jonathan Streeter and be very, very
I can pull that
civil,
up.
and then
Do you want me to-
got on there
I want to
and
see
you
it.
were just like,
I'll pull it up.
"Oh, it looks
I'm
like
gonna go.
it looks like you're looking for a real definition of fascism.
Oh,
which
dude,
you're not gonna find
you were
here, moron."
You were doing so good too. I was very impressed with the even tone that you had, and you kind of drilled down to the issue. You were like, okay, well, let's take the claim at its face value and see if there's any merit to it. And I don't know, it was missing that Jared element that is so much more entertaining. And I count it as a failure. It was a failure. I mean, in the grand scheme of thing, if you are trying to engage ideas and move people on the dial, we failed. We went too far.
I didn't expect to move anybody, but I wanted to see how long I could go without getting banned. But I think my last comment would have gotten me banned anyway, I think, and it was when I said maybe I ought to go get a gender studies argument or a gender studies degree so that I can appeal to my own authority too. And that probably did it more than your snark got you banned right away though. Like you got banned immediately.
He did some parting shot, and
were
you able to see it? Were you able to see the photo?
No, I wasn't able to see it.
He blocked us and then he commented and then blocked us immediately.
I mean, I felt like my snark was at least even-handed in that it conceded that both sides do it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Is Trump a fascist? Well, if you don't like his policies, yes, but not if you wear a red hat. Is Biden a fascist? Well, if you don't like his policies, yes, but not if you wear a mask. You
the my favorite line there is what was it? Didn't you read Derrida? Words mean nothing unless Marcuse says they do.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. Where is it? It's down there. Oh, come on, Charlie. There it is. Yep. Didn't you read Derrida? Yeah, let's read it. What Derrida up here's the thing that you said about
Jonathan just came
maybe
on 'cause it's the one podcast where we're actually defending John DeLynn.
maybe I ought
That's
to get
right.
a degree in gender studies so that I too can appeal to my own authority. Jared Higdon, you seem to be stuck in the past where definitions are somehow rigid and inflexible and don't take into account the evolution of language and the vector of oppression. Fascists can no longer simply be defined as those who support fascism or the principles of fascism. You may have
I
assumed
could
that
see him like reading this and be like, okay, this sounds, I agree so far. Okay.
You may have assumed that fascism is a governmental system led by a dictator having complete power, forcibly suppressing opposition and criticism, regimenting all industry, commerce, etc., and emphasizing an aggressive nationalism and often racism. But that definition is too strict and rigid. Really, if a government figure exerts its power in a way that we don't like, then it's authoritarian and they are fascists. But sides of our political divide use this to great effect. But when the other side does it, they are wrong. Is Trump a fascist? Well, if you don't like his policies, yes, but not if you wear a red hat. Is Biden a fascist? Well, if you don't like his policies, yes, but not if you wear a mask. Would you ever do the even-handed thing of not assuming fascist as the political figurehead of the group that is opposite your political home? No. Sheesh. So DeSantis is a fascist, period. No debate. Don't try to pull up the definition of fascist and try to hold us to that standard. Didn't you read Derrida? Words mean nothing unless Marcuse says they do. Also, gender is a social construct. The gender binary is oppressive, and cis heteronormativity is the prison from which we should all be liberated. Read some gosh darn Judith Butler, for goodness sake.
GPT or Jonathan Streeter?
It's Jonathan Streeter. Yeah. Read some gosh darn Judith Butler, for goodness sake. Just skip over the chapters where she talks about how the taboo against incest is also an arbitrary social construct. We will wait to see if kindergartner teachers decides they should liberate the kid's mind with that.
How long until I can go to Chat GPT and just say, write razor sharp biting satire in the style of Jonathan Streeter?
That's how y'all gone. They mentioned you on the Dartmouth College one with the Joseph Smith and Dartmouth College.
Oh, really? I haven't watched that one yet.
By that do I go?
I hear it had good
But the guy was
reviews.
just complimenting you for deconstructing all your deconstructions.
You should the hell out of
Charlie,
it.
chill out.
I thought of you earlier, Jonathan, to wonder if you knew the word that I read once, but I don't remember. But it's the name of a symptom. It's the thing where the symptom is that you don't think you have the symptom. There's like a special name in psychology and medicine.
Denial?
No, but there's like a thing where it's like neurological people have it, where it's like the nerve that would tell them that the problem is there is dead, and so they just don't know that. So, damn it, I don't know.
I think I have that though.
Ghost symptom?
I
No,
can't
we
remember.
talked
It's
about
a
this
fancy,
before.
fancy name for
When we were first married, Morgan signed me up for a triathlon that I didn't really want to do, but she's very pushy,
What?
so I did it.
A triathlon? Like
Yeah,
a
fuck
full
you. I
one?
wasn't this fat back then,
Triathlon
okay?
before we go on to buy
No,
I
it
run
was
all the time. I couldn't do a triathlon.
It wasn't a real. It was like a BYU Idaho one. But
okay.
no, we started off on the there was a swimming thing to
It was a
begin with.
triathlon.
And I never
spelled with a Y
swim.
instead of an I.
Yeah. I never swim, and I jump into the pool and I do the swimming thing, and I don't have that thing in my body that tells me like, dude, you gotta stop. You don't have this in you. I just keep going, and I finish the swimming part, and then you're supposed to go run a couple miles, and I get out and I'm gonna go dry off in the locker room, and while I'm doing that, I puke my guts out like right there. It's like, oh
man.
fuck, I gotta not do the rest of this. See, I think I have that thing you're talking about where anytime I feel sick, I'm like, but I'm not sick.
Yeah.
So I
So
have this thing where
That was
it's
an
harder.
episode of,
Like it used to be a lot easier to do podcasts where you criticize the church because you just find some historical thing or current thing that they're doing and you can just rant about that for a little bit more. But it's kind of like when you're in a fight and you think you're winning, you got some good moves on your opponent, and then like the Hulk enters the ring. You're like, oh, hold on a second. We need to change the direction of all of our weapons and change everything. I feel like that's kind of where we've come with the wider cultural wars.
No,
I
it
found
feels
the
like
word.
when I was a kid, I remember Sonic came like Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. I was like 12 years old. That came out, and we played it, and you could play through as the good guys, and you can play through as the bad guys. And if you beat both sides, you then realize that there's a greater threat, and the good guys and the bad guys have to team up. And they're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe we were fighting before this, because this thing is going to destroy the fucking world." And that's what it feels like with like even angry face Jared from like angry at the church, unfairly angry at the church, probably even was like, okay, some of these ex-Mormons are fucking nuts. And anytime I would point it out, they'd be like, they'd jump on me and say, oh, there's a greater threat.
No, I've mentioned it before, but it always stuck out to me. I mean, it was many years ago, probably close to 10 years ago now at this point. But back when I was still in the ex-Mormon Facebook group, and somebody posted a picture of the cul-de-sac they lived on somewhere in Utah County, and they clearly lived in a very nice upper middle class neighborhood, and it was a bunch of cars parked on the street, and it was like 3:00 in the afternoon on a Sunday or something like that, or maybe it was a Saturday. And the caption was like, "Why do they have to have their choir practice?" And I'm just like, and I remember commenting like, "Those monsters! Like, how dare they? Like, getting
I think
together."
I remember
to
seeing this
sing music
in real
like,
time.
I just
But
watched
because
the
like,
most.
well, the thing is like, because at that time, I lived in a fucking slumlord flop house, basically up by the university. All my neighbors were atheistic fucking college kids that partied all night. Yes, I would love to live next to the Mormons that just get together and sing.
So I just got done listening right before this podcast to the most recent Zelf on the Shelf episode, and
Oh
they
god.
towards the end of it just kind of got into this whole thing about the real worries and the struggles that we have to worry about in the world. And before long, they were talking about how every single store that the church owns over in the Gateway Center or whatever all does harmful environmental stuff. Like every single one of them sells stuff that worsens climate change and destroys the world, and there's all these terrible things, and it just kind of gets to this level of
I guarantee they either drive Teslas or wish they did.
Yeah, I know. What's your carbon footprint, Tanner?
That people still believe that electric cars are green by virtue of being electric. How have we gotten this far and people don't know this yet? Like, and tell
Electricity exists in the air, man. It just comes.
Oh, that's
like,
right.
They make it from dams.
Oh,
make
they
it
harvest.
from
When will they learn
windmills.
to harvest
from those,
lightning?
yeah, from those wind turbines that we have to change laws on bird killing in order to.
Wait. I just figured this out. So the global warming increases hurricane strength. Build a fuck ton of extra strong windmills in Hurricane Alley, right? That way you get the feedback. So the hurricanes will feed the green energy grid.
Have you looked into
Holy
how
fuck.
much mining you have to do to get the copper out to even?
Yeah, and then they break.
Mm.
Also, they need like
No, shut up.
huge
It's
amounts of
renewable.
lubricant, and the lubricant wears out
Also-
over time and has to be replaced.
We would have to
Also,
mine
fuck
out the
nuclear.
entire
And guess
Andes.
what lubricant is? It's petroleum-based oils, you jackasses.
So I feel like the whole thing that is the larger, bigger threat than I ever thought Mormonism was, which I also fear that the Mormons might just fall right in line with the same thing, is the weird mega mega world. I don't know. You get the anti-natalists and you get the people who turn that into death cult, the climate change stuff into death cult. Or I listened to this whole thing by Molebug this past week, and I was going to name this, even though we were talking about the Lin, I was going to title this thing, "Why Does Every Single Good Idea End Up in a Mountain of Skulls?" I wonder like how much of that sort of idea, because so much of what we see going on, and I see stuff with food, there's talks about like all this stuff with eggs going on, and part of that you don't know if they're just the stuff with eggs. There's so many different weird little things with chickens, but so much of it seems to me like the idea that Bill Gates had with computers of give you the virus, and then if you get the virus, like they have all these ideas that if we take away these types of foods and then we give you these GMO foods, or I'm at the gym and I'm sitting there at the gym and I'm watching as the local news is talking about bugs and how bugs are going to be good protein. I took pictures of it and showed it, and half of me is like, am I crazy? Am I like, should I just be like in complete tinfoil for all this sorts of stuff going on out here? Or is there really some major, global weird idea thing that uses these different types of woke communist stuff, the whole James Lindsay stuff that he goes down, like how big is that? Is it threat level midnight? Is there really this big a threat of a bigger thing that, and goes all the way down to the trans stuff? And
I remember thinking about conspiracy theorists like years and years ago, back when conspiracy theorists were like actual theorists, not just people that made sense. But I remember thinking about like, why do all conspiracy theorists not just believe in one conspiracy, but like all of the conspiracies? Yeah. Right? People like the 9/11 truthers also generally believed that the moon landing was fake, or believed in UFOs.
Yeah, there's always a lot of overlap.
They just lose. Yeah, they lose all trust in anything.
They'll always have the one.
No, that's
like,
the thing. That's
those alien abduction kooks, though. Those guys are out of their minds.
Yeah, I can see that. But I'm seeing this now.
They're grounded on.
I'm seeing this now, and I'm like, okay, like things like MK Ultra. Those are things that we know that happen, where the government's just like, let's see how much LSD makes him want to fucking kill everyone or whatever, and you can only learn so many things before eventually, like, you know what? It's just easier to believe that they're always lying about fucking everything. Yeah. But the people on the other side of it, they combat that by being like, see, they believe in weird kooky things, so all the stuff they believe is bullshit.
I think the overarching essence of the entire thing is the same thing they said on Zelf on the Shelf on the most recent episode. They read somebody saying like, all this Mormonism or all these other things get people to be afraid of government, and they shouldn't be afraid of government and all that sorts of stuff. And the whole point of it is like, it all seems like it's everything down from the trans stuff to even the other bigger, weirder stuff. It's all pushing towards putting more faith in a larger centralized control.
I am old enough to remember when the left was anti-government.
They were anti-FBI. They were anti-CIA.
They were anti-CIA. Yeah, they were.
What are you like over?
They were anti. Let's go to war with Russia.
They were anti-big pharma.
They were against that. I remember. It hurts my head to think about that. But
it's the same thing though, where they're against everything until they're the ones in power, and then they're for it. So in the 60s, when it was those 3-letter agencies that were cracking down on all of the countercultural revolutionaries, then they were the bad guy, and you could protest against them. And when the wars represented the interest of those people in power, and they were not on your side, then you could consider them the bad guy. But we're kind of in the opposite situation now.
Yeah.
The thing about like
just
conspiracies,
you're always on the team of the underdog, right? Like it's always the underdog, because my friend just texted me this morning a screenshot of Matt Walsh going on his whole corporal punishment thing that he got on that kick lately. I don't understand why. He's like praising Singapore, where like chewing gum is illegal and shit like that. And talking about,
I think that's
you guys remember
if we beat the living fuck out of drug dealers like the great nation of Singapore, then everything would be fine. And he's like, am I wrong to be alarmed by that? And I was like, well, no, Walsh is definitely authoritarian and might my relationship, my allyship with him is tenuous and always has been. I knew it had an expiration date, but like it's always just the underdog. It's whoever is in charge will suck ass at being in charge.
Yeah, all of
And
our
then you got
constitutional
just
laws
the-
are laws against the person who has the power.
Do you guys remember the name of the kid that got caught? He was an American in Singapore, and he
Oh
was
yeah, and he got
arrested for
swatted in the
graffiti,
butt.
and he got caned, and like, cause
Yeah.
that I just remember that
That was such a
totally
big deal.
dominated the
Yeah.
news, and that was like that 1992, 93 time, like right before the
Yeah.
internet, before cable was getting more and more common, and like yeah, I just remember that utterly crushed the news, but I can't remember that dumb kid's name. But they whacked his ass, and he lived.
Yeah,
That's right.
but
We cut off Jonathan way back. He was saying something about
Oh, that's okay.
those damn hippies and how what we need to do is just round them up. I believe.
No,
What you were
the
saying?
conspiracy thing that Chris was mentioning, where it's like, how can you conceive of that? And I know that the argument that people have all the time is, well, how could you coordinate so many people to keep the secret for these conspiracies? And I think sometimes it's just that all the different interests and motivations of a bunch of different people that get aligned to some particular set of ideas just kind of naturally flows in that direction. And once you recognize the patterns, you can look at it and it looks like a conspiracy, but it's a bunch of independent things operating in tandem.
Well,
So, and you can, when you uncover these things and then try to draw the connections, I was to give an example, I'm doing kind of a deep dive into the evidence base behind the medical and surgical transition recommendations for kids. And the American Academy of Pediatrics, like, you know, they have over 60,000 members. Well, one guy wrote their policy statement, which is then waved around in all these different hearings before the, you know, various state legislatures trying to set up laws to restrict this. And they say, oh, look, the American Academy of Pediatrics, 60,000 strong, recommends that we give kids puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. Well, you look at that paper and it's this one guy who was just barely out of training when he wrote it. He has no extensive experience treating kids. And he in his little thing, he thanks one person. It's a doctor by the name of Garofalo, who's the head of one of the kids. These things. So I Google Garofalo, and he's in charge of a center that was set up by one of these billionaire philanthropists who was also trans, who specifically set up his center. So we have now, you know, you can draw these connections. You have a billionaire who's trans, that's probably, as an older man, now trans woman, falls in the category of the autogynephile, which you're not supposed to, is the thing
that
that
doesn't
shall not-
exist.
Ooh, yeah,
That
that's a
doesn't
bad
exist.
word.
But
You gotta stop that.
he's using his philanthropic arm to give millions of dollars to set up an institute to formalize this medicalization of kids with gender dysphoria. But then the person that gets in charge of that ends up helping write this document that then sets the tone for the entire nation. Like, without question, like, this one guy and a few committee members wrote this document. It's released to 60,000 American pediatric members, and they had no say in it. There was no voting in it. There was no peer review that would be subject to contrary opinion, and there was no minority opinion issued or anything. It was just bam, it's there.
Well, wait,
And now every
But
state has to
Jonathan-
argue against it.
the science. It's just the science. Are you saying 59,999 pediatricians don't go along with the science? But you,
Well, there was
I
the
was
Brett
going to say
Heather-
right before you did that, said that whole thing. It's exactly what I was about to use as an analogy, because I don't remember exactly what we're talking about. But you remember that some of the best and most zealous liars for Mormonism were the recent converts, right? When we were missionaries,
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't goddamn know any better. They bought in, but they didn't know anything. And when you say like, oh, this doctor is right out of the gate, he's a recent convert. Like, that's what's going on.
That's what.
Like-
So one of the things that Peterson just covered is Michael Mann, the guy, one of the climate change guys. He just covered that his whole hockey stick thing that set off like a whole thing of like Al Gore and all that whole sorts of stuff. That the guy was just barely like a PhD graduate coming out of there. So he was like brand new, and his stuff was put up as things that set the next 30 years of climate hysteria. And he was a person who, like, that position should have been somebody who had like 190 papers behind it or something, like putting this idea that came from a kid who basically just got out of his PhD thing was outrageous. But Brett and Heather Haying have also pointed to there was this thing about the COVID stuff, and the vaccine saved this many people, and they followed the same thing all the way down, and they found like all the references came from some blog, and the blog was just the person's assumptions and guesses, but they followed all these professional things all the way down that all sourced back to this idea laundering, just to this one little blog that didn't really source it in anything. And there's stuff like that going on all the time right now. We got so much Pravda going on. But
that dog try to get your attention is half the fun here.
Yeah, this is what
really
time
is
I
the
walk
best
him at
dog.
night all the time, because he's
Don't say that.
Yeah,
Yu-Gi-Oh.
But
usually a lot of Chris arm humping that goes on.
To your point
too.
about these young people, I think on this issue in particular,
These
it
damn
really
kids.
it requires someone who's young, who was brought up in their education through
Maoism.
he was trained at Harvard, and so he was trained in kind of the gender ideology dogma, and so he's entering the medical field with a bunch of assumptions, and those assumptions go into some of the stuff that we've covered in the past regarding consent and children, where they rely heavily on the idea that children can understand and consent to these very complex, irreversible changes in their lives. And it's that kind of subversion of the concept of consent and subversion of ethics, because as soon as you say that children can consent to those things, well, now you've got to reformulate your ethics. And whereas before you wouldn't consider a child who's dysphoric wanting hormones or surgery and having parents who don't agree, you would say, okay, well, the parents are the ones that have the duty to consent, and so that's just the way it is. The kid's going to have to deal with it. But now when you consider kids and consent, well, that child is now the victim of injustice because he happens to have parents who don't agree with his self-actualization, because it's considered patient-led medicine in the gender affirmative care. And so just going through, and you can only know that these ideas are behind all of it because, like, I've been searching for places where this one doctor that wrote the document has talked about it, and he hasn't talked about it very much, but I was able to find like a cable access show where he talked about it in his local city, and then one medical student presentation through the AMA where he lays out some of these ethical things, and it just sounds really, really foreign. But this is the new formulation of medical ethics and consent regarding children that all of the old doctors who are just busy seeing patients, they haven't had their ideas of consent and medical ethics transformed and subverted in that kind of way. And so this new approach to these things is very foreign to them. But to take the time and to dig through and realize that that's what's laying under multiple layers of, idea laundering and references is it's hard to do.
Well,
So
what
I'm trying to lay it
terrifies
out
me
and
is
make it
because you think
easy.
about all of the young doctors coming on, assuming they haven't been drenched in this stuff already, or even thinking that like they might be quietly, personally resistant to this stuff, just as a matter of career, right? They've got a real issue because like this stuff is a matter of advancement, obviously. If you're not ethically on board, oh, there's a little doggo. Like, yeah, that's gonna just that. But like, see, that's the thing was like, I think somebody referenced before, are we, James Lindsay, all this, is it communist Armageddon and stuff? And the stuff that bothers me about now is like, I think about, like the whole Nazi thing took 12 years to play out from the time that they got in power to when they had all but destroyed Germany and the German civilization, right? It happened so fast. And like, I think there's a lot of right now where people going like, well, wait a second. Like, hang on. But like, the way I see it is like all of the theoretical groundwork has been laid. The institutional capture has happened. You know, like politically, it's kind of still a fight.
The
That seems to be the last.
Lysenkoism's
Oh,
there.
sorry, and corporation the technocracy captured, right? Like we're most of the way to the nightmare.
Yeah, and that's what that admitting that right there makes me feel half crazy. But
Yeah,
it's
I don't like
it
that.
happened. It happened in history. If you look hard enough at what really happened around 100 years
Yeah.
ago, you know. But
Well, there's this sort of syndrome that we have, I think, right now, and maybe this is just a human, like a human reflex, is to think that, oh, of course that stuff happened in the past, but it couldn't happen now. Maybe it's the normalcy bias that John Larson was somehow
that's a good
attributing
point.
You know
to
what
the
I
one,
just
somehow
noticed?
attributing
real
to the one
usage.
group of people who like are constantly food prepping for the second coming. Those are the people that are worried about the normalcy bias.
Hey,
So I just
Jonathan,
barely watched.
did you
I
guys-
just barely watched
Jonathan-
Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones is on. It's
If
on
you look at
Prime,
the
Amazon
screen-
Prime right now. Have you guys watched Mr. Jones?
I don't know what it is.
Mr. Jones is
Jonathan.
that movie about the Holodomor.
Oh.
If you have Amazon Prime, it's a guy. It's the person
Phenomenal
who broke,
movie.
He broke the story about the Holodomor, and the guy from the New York Times who tried to lie about the whole entire thing got the
Durante?
the Pulitzer, and to this day he still has the. They never rescinded or sent back that Pulitzer.
Do you notice, Jonathan? Because I just noticed this because I've been trained in critical critical bullshit. But if you look at the screen right now, right, notice that the all gringo people are on the top half, and they've put
That was on purpose.
half Latinos below them.
Hey,
This is a clear
man.
hierarchical structuring. He's got his big dog with the bigness. You've just got the little dog. This is
Yeah,
all
the only
very-
problem
with that formulation is that the Mexicans don't care. Man. We're just so worried about getting the job done and going home and then, kicking back. You can play
It's
your
always
stupid
fun
little
because-
academic games.
It's always fun because they assume that the Mexicans care until you try to tell a Mexican to refer to them as a Latinx.
Latinx.
Yeah, Mexicans love that. I got a guy at work. I kept jokingly calling him Fernandez. He was like, "You gotta fucking stop doing that."
I was just a joke. I joked with my
communists.
girlfriend that I'd use Latinx with her, and then sooner or later she kicked me in the Wavix.
I was talking back when I was talking to the communists, to the young communist people, and I remember there's been a conversation about this stuff, and I said Mexico is very racist, and I remember they got this look on their face that they got blue screen in their brain, the blue screen of death, and I just saw it in their face where it's like they were trying to compute this, where it's like, because on the one hand they knew they had no personal conception, they had no fucking connection to anything, they had everything
But
they
they hadn't
know about
considered
Mexico,
that-
they
hadn't
learned at a
considered
college
that
in
could be a
America.
possibility, though.
What?
Well, they hadn't considered that could be a possibility. You
Well, no, but
introduced a new
everything they know about,
possibility to their mind.
no, they know Mexico oppressed. Standpoint epistemology. Plug in the whole ethical thing, right? And then when you point out well, no, actually, no, they can be super racist. And
See, we
here's
got a
some
lot of
examples.
Koreans.
And-
We have a lot of Koreans in Idaho Falls, and we have a lot of so they're native from Idaho Falls, right? But they're Korean, and then we have a lot of Chinese tourists, and the Koreans fucking hate the
Oh, I
Chinese
bet.
tourists. They're so mean about the China, and a lot of tourists are assholes anyway. But it's just kind of funny because you point that out to somebody else that different different minorities. I say minorities, not on a global scale, obviously, but different minorities can have a lot of hatred toward different races, and that
Oh, yeah.
totally fucks them up.
Well, working in catering, with all the Latin Americans from up and down Latin America, so all of the outright racist discrimination, classist nationalism I ever experienced in the workplace happened in Espanol. And a lot of it happened, and almost none of it has ever happened in English because Americans are always very touchy about that shit. But like the fucking Ecuadorians and the Venezuelans and shit were not fucking shy about it. Like they're fucking classist, they're nationalistic, they're racist. Oh man, this brings back a memory. I remember way back in Mission Land, we had an elder from El Salvador, and we weren't critically conscious then, and we called him our little brown boy. We loved him, and he was great, and he was learning English. And like, cause one day we were driving in the car and we were shit talking other elders, and he said, "Oh, I don't like Elder so and so. He is a gay." And we say, "No, Elder, he is gay, not he is a gay." And one day we're in like a fast food market or something, and we're talking about some bullshit, and I don't even know what it was, but I remember he does exactly this. And remember, this is a little brown Salvadoreño who, for American purposes, it's all the same fucking thing. Like, I mean, these people, like, I would tell these people my mom was Brazilian and they thought that I ate enchiladas. This is a little brown Salvadoreño guy, and we're in this restaurant, we're shit talking somebody, and he goes like this, like a stupid Mexican. And we all bust up laughing. It's like, dude, you are like for as far as any of these people could tell. But like for him, like, no, there's all the difference in the world. All the difference in the world, All
right. So Troy asked a question we should address here, but you guys talking about racism, it reminded me of the Avenue Q song, "Everyone's a Little Bit Racist." Have you guys heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard it.
Because that to me, like, before I was ever enlightened as to the realities of critical race theory, this was like the mantra that I kind of was able to reconcile things like what you're just talking about, Flip, and then the desire we all have to be good and to be even-handed. Let's see if it'll play.
Hey, Kate Monster. Yeah? You're a monster, right? Yeah. And Tricky Monster, my neighbor, he's a monster. Right. So are you two, like, related? What? Princeton? I find that racist. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I was just asking. Well, it's a touchy subject. No, not all monsters are related. You should be much more careful when you're talking about the sensitive subject of race. Yeah. Well, look who's talking. What do you mean? Well, you're the one who's always complaining because your students are always cursing. Yeah, well, they get that from racist. Admitting it is not an easy thing to do. But everyone's a little bit racist sometimes. Doesn't mean we go around committing hate crimes.
Is it just freezing on me?
No, it's freezing on me.
And you will find one's really colorblind. Maybe it's a fact we all should face.
Check it out. It's definitely worth watching.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. It reminds me, Flight of the Conchords had their Albie the Racist Dragon.
Yeah.
Thing too. So wokeness.
Get your hand off of my tail. So I think the tide is turning against wokeism. Probably, I kind of think Troy's right, but like kind of to a concerning degree, like because I don't want to. I'm never looking forward to the new role that I have.
That's what I'm saying. Is like the next.
I was not looking forward to being the conservative, right? Because that's how everybody views me now, as the conservative asshole. But now I've gotten kind of used to that. So I'm not looking forward to being the commie liberal sympathizer.
I don't think it's turning that way though.
Oh, dude, I don't know, because I'm watching
the stuff that you're saying of like the right wing guys, because like the right wing guys, but they're still way underdogs. Like one day, if they ever become overdogs, you will have to take them on. But
I've been.
I think the bigger fear is this bigger techno future stuff.
This shit is making me. This shit is making me crazy. I'm realize. I think Jews are the canary in the coal mine, and however the society feels about Jews, that tells you what's going on.
Yeah, the backlash is going to happen.
Like that's not original to you. Like I've heard that before. I've heard that sentiment before.
It's probably not original to me, no. But like,
I'm not. I'm saying like, I've heard that idea before.
Me and my friend were talking about this morning. We're like, I guess Jews are just actually God's chosen people, because like I joined all of these Facebook groups, every Facebook group I can find, because I want to see what's going on. It's probably a mental illness that I have, and I found these really anti-Semitic Facebook groups, and so I know their lingo and stuff like that. And I noticed the lingo starting to bleed into every fucking Facebook group I'm in. That's the thing that's bleeding over more than anything else.
Yeah.
Wokeness is going away in those, and straight up anti-Semitism is bleeding into it a little bit more.
Yeah,
I hate
kinda wonder-
crying
you might-
anti-Semitism because
You
that
might have
sounds
something there, because like I
crazy.
kind of feel the same way. Although when you mention that like they must be God's chosen people, the nerdtastical thing that has always tripped me up as far as that concerned is that because I've always been a gigantic airplane nerd, and if you dig into the history of Israeli warfare, and particularly the war record of the Israeli Air Force, it's absurd. Like you almost have to claim divine intervention, although I think you can just chalk it up to better equipment, better training, and better planning. But holy shit, like when you consider everything that's been thrown at them, they have not only prevailed, but just absolutely dominated. It's absurd how well they've done. Anyway,
So I guess
So
we're all on board with Jews are God's chosen people now. Okay.
there we
This
go.
panel that was just released by sovereign nations, they go into detail. It's one of the first times you might hear James Lindsay and Michael Fallon talk about the worries of that actual Christian nationalists. They dispute that they're Christian nationalists because they always joke that they get called Christian nationalists, and they're not. They're constitutionalist liberals, but they actually have engaged and started to listen to and hear some of those actual kind of like right wing or people who want to move into the actual Christian nationalism. And some of those people I've talked about like a whole lot before, but James Lindsay also had on Benjamin Boyce's channel kind of a long conversation with Sargon, and Sargon's kind of been flirting with post-liberal ideas, which all kind of hints and flirts at that stuff too. But I still think that's the underdog to the because for sure, whenever that backlash gets a big, strong movement, just like happened 100 years ago, Hitler and all that stuff came out of getting extremely frustrated with the commies. That's what Mein Kampf is about. He got extremely frustrated with the commies. And so then he also kind of took up some of their ideas. And just in this past week, I've heard right-wing defenses of Hegel. I've heard right-wing conversations about, yeah, we need to get rid of this crappy constitution. This constitution's a lie. I've heard right-wing ideas about or talking about, just the economy and libertarianism being wrong and bad, and that was always wrong because laissez-faire capitalistic markets are bad, because we need to actually take control and use the hammer on that sort of stuff. And that backlash is all for sure there, and it was part of what was always coming from that other movement. But at this moment, I still feel like the bigger technocratic, fearsome movement is still that WF, and I don't know, partially like what we were talking about earlier is like with Mormons, and we're always dealing with Mormons and people who become ex-Mormons, and then it seems like I don't think many ex-Mormons are falling into Christian nationalism. It still just feels like ex-Mormons go towards the WEF side of stuff in general, but that teeter-totter is always going to be there for sure. A lot of those ideas from that stuff is especially when you see things like, you see Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh get to the point of being like, we need to carry a heavy stick and use it. We need to take the power of this government and use it. We need to look at Florida and use these ideas of saying, we can't just like go back to our libertarian free market ideas. We must grab the stick of government authority and start hammering with it. And
that's scary, yeah. Like I like the idea of saying like let's restore normalcy to the process. Like let's try, because like one thing that I have seen absolutely degenerate in my life, like it was never good and it has totally degenerated, is the legislature is not doing its job.
No, it's it's not.
That's why like the Supreme Court is picking up the slack, and that's not, and
that's trouble. And that's where they get to the level of saying, well, then we can pack the Supreme Court or something. But that's because they kind of realize that that's become a de facto executive decider.
Between
it's not
executive
supposed to be that
orders,
way.
between executive orders and the Supreme Court, like, yeah, they've totally picked up the slack for the legislature, and it has fucked everything. The legislature is completely broken, and like in principle, I like this thing where Mitt Romney goes up to that DeSantis guys and says like, "Hey, you lying piece of shit, get out." Okay, I applaud that action, but like, come on, those who live in glass houses, for hell's sake, like, we've barely begun. Like, and how about we start at the top with the guy who's lied about everything in his life, including that his son died in Iraq when he died of brain cancer years later. Like,
So this, I'm not going to
like, can you
show any of
imagine,
it, but like, see
the
these.
Democrat went to Joe Biden and said, like, "Look, you lying hack." You
So
don't belong here.
Aaron McIntyre, who I like, he's been on Benjamin Boyce's show because Benjamin Boyce has been showing a lot of these guys, and so has the distributist here. But these are guys who flirt or use the ideas of some of that right-wing stuff, and they're not 100% wrong. But both of these two, like if you see these two, these are right-wing, like kind of these harder right-wing, the stuff that's influencing Michael Knowles right-wing stuff. This whole podcast is talking about how the Constitution has failed, and screw it, we need to take power back a different way. And this one's talking about how how like some of those shooters ended up being like kind of like right-wing kids, but they were also afraid of global warming. It's like you see the right wing, like the horseshoe theory gets a little bit true. They're like, this is them fearing about global warming type stuff at the same time too. And they sound like Sam and Up on the Shelf and their fears of
a few years back when I looked up the American Nazi Party and their 25-point plan, climate change and global warming were near the top. They are very concerned about it.
It horseshoes big time. They hate if you say it's horseshoe because they say no because ours is genuine, or something like that.
Well, I mean, I've mentioned it before, but like as far as I recall, like because on climate, universal health care, isolationism, like they were on the same page about almost everything. And where the big divides came were the communists believe in magical utopia just popping up out of nowhere. The Nazis believe in a leader. And
like a religious leader.
Like there has to be, like you need some kind of, there must be a single person in charge. And then the other big dividing thing was family. The Nazis were like traditional family at the heart of civilization. And the Antifa communist far left are the exact opposite. BLM was in their fucking webpage. Part of our mission is dismantling the family. Okay, there you go. And like that's the thing that really struck me is that like right now today, the modern far hard left commies, fucking pinkos, and the modern far right, the American neo-Nazi Party, they're on the same page about fuck capitalism. Global warming is going to kill us all if we don't stop it now. Everyone must have universal health care, racial segregation. They're on the same page about all these things. Where they are split are those two things. We should have a single leader and families are important. That's where they disagree. And they're obviously
you can almost, I saw somebody say you could almost just say the two sides as one side believes in hard lines, the other side believes in no lines. And that's really all it is. But then other than that, they agree on everything else. And I'd say somewhere in the middle, or what we call the technical liberal, is all of our ideas are, we got to just keep them all from taking power. So the Constitution is just like, no, all of the Bill of Rights, all that stuff are laws against the power holder. All of our things are, like James Lindsay keeps saying, the reason why we can find friends with some of these religious people is that they believe they're not God. Just like I believe I'm not God. Like anybody who believes they themselves aren't God and can't become God, that's who you can, in this life, that's who you can be a friend with. And anybody who believes that they can become God in this life or turn their society into a God-like utopia, that's who we got to watch out for. That's the lovely ideas that turn us all into, that always builds mountains of skulls.
It's funny because, like, I mean, you think about my mission experience, like, you can divide your companions into the ones that thought that they were talking to God and the ones that knew they weren't.
Yeah.
You guys remember the ones that thought they were talking to God? You remember?
I think
those
that's
guys?
almost how you
fuck
have to
yeah.
make the friend-enemy distinction nowadays. Do you
He
think
was the
you
zone
are
leader.
God,
He
or
was
you are actually talking to God, or do you think that you're a level down from that, or that he's not there? Either
Yeah.
No, I
one of them
remember.
we can.
I
Because
remember
some of
having
you
this
who think
exact
he's not there
conversation.
also think that you can become God-like in this planet.
I remember having this exact conversation with my zone leader, who, like, oh my god, I know him as the most annoying person I've ever met in my life. He was explaining to me one time on a split, because I was the district leader at the time. He was like, "Elder, we've decided we need to invite investigators to be baptized on the first visit every time." And
Dude,
I was
that's
so
my whole
jaded by
mission
that point.
past that.
No, I was so jaded by that point. I was like, I'm not gonna do that. And he was like, "Oh, well, it's revelation we received from God." I was like, "I'm not gonna do that." He's like, "But Elder, are you doubting that we received this revelation from God?" I was like, "No, that's stupid. I don't think you received it from God. I'm not doing it." And I hated this guy so much that I actually said that to him. And like, that's the guy that thought he was really talking to God. And so I get what you're saying. That's a funny distinction. I'd never heard it before.
Well, I mean,
When you were talking earlier about where ex-Mormons tend to go, it reminded me of that argument or that point of difference between John DeLynn and Lindsay Hansen Park that you guys have covered before, where she makes the case
Oh,
that, you
no.
know, if you're not in the church over social justice issues or, you know, feminism or something like that, those are the real important issues. And
You
so
left
it's
wrong.
this masculine thing to be worried about, like historical contradictions and facts and, you know, dusty old documents.
yeah, that's where I fell off of enjoying ex-Mormonism, because I enjoyed it when it was like you talk about that Dartmouth College thing by John.
Dropping in and out.
I'm dropping in
signal-wise,
and
so I
out where
don't-
you are.
He
I don't know
is.
where you guys are on that, but
We heard
Um,
you.
So the
okay. So the thing though is, if you think about that, you know, if you are leaving the church over social
We lost you.
justice issues like that, you know, going down the WF route or going down the social justice route is like, that's your new moral home. It's that moral divergence with the church that drove you out. And so that's naturally where you're going to go. And then you look at people who were more fact-based or were looking at, like, my journey out of the church really started with political philosophy in terms of just trying to figure out what I believed in, and then seeing the Ron Paul, Rudy Giuliani clash in 2012, and then just being like, what's this Austrian economics thing? What's this libertarian thing? And then reading
fuck
more
yeah,
about
you-
that. And then
Ayn Rand
that kind
led
of
you out of
brings
the
you into a
church.
moral framework that's based on the whole, you know, natural rights, natural law thing. And then now you have a moral framework that you can then contrast with what the church has provided you as a divine moral framework. And that is how it unraveled. And so it was that moral framework that kind of set me on my trajectory as I left the church. Whereas you could see that someone who's got their moral framework is this social justice moral framework, then that sets them on that particular trajectory. And I just think that social justice, compassion, empathy, you know, all of that's wound up in that direction. And it's so much more, I don't know, it pulls on your heartstrings more. It's easier to resonate with it emotionally. And so that's really powerful. And certainly it's affected, I think women in the church get pulled through that feminist Mormon housewives, then eventually ex-Mormon pathway. That's kind of the skids are greased, you know, that those rails are greased pretty quickly in that direction. And so I feel like that, like, why the reason you leave the church plays a role in where you end up going afterwards on that. I don't know if you guys have seen a similar.
No, I think of that. I think of that with Cara Burrell. Anytime I listen to her talk, the more I listen to her, the more I'm, because she always talks about how, hey guys, remember how we all hated gay people and wanted them to not have rights? And I was like, no, I don't remember ever doing that. And
It's
then
like
we
Robin DiAngelo,
developed
like,
empathy.
remember when
and then
you
I'm
were
like,
scared
oh,
of going to the party with the blacks? You're like, no.
yeah,
I don't remember
so
that.
she's always, the more I listen to Cara Burrell, the more I'm like, oh, she really just didn't have empathy, and then she thought she developed it when she left the church. Because that's the thing, there's this weird disconnect between me and people who are leaving the church now, because I wish I could go back. I want to collect receipts from all these people who like to talk, because I have this theory that everybody changes the reason that they left the church. And I might even do this sometimes. I'm not sure. But like, I would love to go back and look at people who are still active in the ex-Mormon community now versus like 10 years ago, explaining why they left the church at those different times. Because I would bet that a lot of them back 10 years ago talked about the Book of Abraham or historical issues. Whereas now, I bet nearly all of them would say LGBTQIA plus alphabet issues or whatever, you know?
I'd say you're 100% right. But the thing that I've also noticed with that is the social justice way has been more successful. You know, it's more, if the goal is remove everybody out of that, it's working better.
That's because
He's
if you're leaving for historical
99.999%
issues, it's not like the goal. Like I never had a goal to lead people out of Mormonism because I didn't leave it for an ideology that said lead people out of this. But when you leave it for social justice, it's like they're causing harm. Because if I leave it and I'm like, look, this whole Book of Mormon thing, it didn't happen, right? There's no metal, there's no there's no chariots or horses or anything like that. And they're like, well, fuck you, I still believe it. I'll be like, well, all right. And that's the end of it. And they can still believe it, and I can not believe it. But if I ascribe to an ideology the second I leave it that says that they are morally incorrect for staying in that, then I have to
harmful.
Keep trying. Yeah, they're causing harm. And I got to convince them, no, not only are you incorrect, because it's okay to be incorrect, you're causing harm, and it's not okay to be causing harm.
I can say, like, I never went through that, and like that I left. I can say the exact same thing I said at the moment I left is why I left, and it's just I stopped being Mormon the moment I stopped believing in it.
Yeah,
you know?
well, from me from the start, and it's one of the reasons I probably had a better relationship with my family for the way I left, is I didn't get on some moral high horse. I 100% was just like, you guys can have your thing, but I felt like I had to prep and get really ready if somebody came at me, like, and then they didn't come at me very much, or if I came and they started hearing stuff, they'd back off. But there was never me marching in and saying, ugh, do you guys know what you're participating in? And that sort of thing. But that also, you know, maybe the social justice warrior people nowadays think that they got to do that to get people out. But at the same time, too, is like, I never once had a bad relationship with any of my still believing family because of that. We never had a blow up because we just didn't have to get into those things. And then we did have blow ups with a bunch of
I wish I could say I was as of an exit as you guys, but I went through all of that crap. You know, I remember, you know, when I grew up, the church was morality. And so the church said gay people were the result of personal iniquity, and that they chose the way that they were, and that their marriage unions would destroy the, American character of family. Well, then that's just how it is. And so when I first encountered, my liberal New Yorker Mormon convert friend who's like, I don't care if gays get married. Well, it's not affecting me. Like, I was like, well, what are you talking about? The prophets said, and the scriptures say that, and the family proclamation. And it was really, that was just the way it was, the unquestioning thing to do. And so when I eventually did make my journey out of the church, it was because I was a very literalistic, concrete thinking person in the church. Then of course I needed to inform my family, because they are also very concrete thinking and everything, and of course they would want to know these things. And so that started a bunch of conversations, and then I was quickly hit with all of the things that we all face, of people who don't want to look at the things that we want to show them. It's like the bird box thing where you want to open their eyes, and it caused some problems. Fortunately, my family's forgiving enough that they.
I think that also kind of hits on one of like the larger ideas I've always kind of been in odds with Delin about, is just the general concept of Flip and I were Salt Lake Mormons, and I have this hunch that, like, not that all the Salt Lake Mormons are this way, but Salt Lake Mormons were all way, 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 way more on the blue liberal, like they were Mitt Romney Mormons all along, and
mostly, yeah.
And the way Mitt Romney plays along to get along, with all that stuff. Of course, you can come across any random person who took it way
Like
super more literal. But
the way I left the church is like, so first off, I got excommunicated, and in my court of love, which I wish it, like, you know, like in American court, like they at least give you like a little printout that ostensibly gives you the layout, right, of what's going to happen. But anyway, like, you know, I remember them asking me a lot of questions. They asked me about, like, you know, what do you think about your priesthood and what do you think about your faith? And I gave very honest answers because at the time I was like, you know what, I'm not sure about this. You know, I'm having issues, and you know, and I didn't go all CES letter on them. Obviously, it didn't exist at the time, but you know, I was just very straightforward with it. You know, but like, you know, I was still basically faithful, just struggling. You know, like I remember having this realization to myself, like about 18 months into my mission, and I had this exact thought. This is how I put it to myself. If any church is true, it is the Mormon church. But if the Mormon church was ever true, it must be an apostasy. And this was like the question mark I had in my mind, basically from there until the end of my mission, and then excommunication. But so then I got excommunicated, and I got the letter, and Morgan's, she's hitting them out of the park. I got my letter from excommunication and said, come talk to the stake president every week. And for like 6 months, I would talk to the stake president every week. And this is my leaving the church, really, ultimately, was I remember having this exact exchange with my stake president after all this time. And I said, President, I'm not saying I'm turning my back on the church. I just don't want to do it right now. And he said, okay. And that was the end. I walked out. And yeah. And then like years later, I read Richard Dawkins. I'm like, oh, I don't believe in God no more. Okay, that's easy. But like that's how I left the church. But I never had the fuck you.
I absolutely had the fuck you thing. And
I had
by the
bits
way,
of it.
you guys, I'm realizing you guys are all fucking sinners. I'm still a Mormon. Well, hi, bitches. But so I'm actually
you're still on the records.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And
I
actually
resigned, and I used John DeLynne's name in my resignation letter.
See, I'm glad I didn't do that. I always thought it'd be more badass to get excommunicated. So that's what I wanted to do. And then I calmed the fuck down.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, actually,
I've heard you guys rail against Jeremy Runnells' excommunication before.
That's just me. Flip defends him. And I wanted to have a conversation
the recording
about
or
it because I rail against Jeremy Runnells'
just making a scene of it.
Because he makes a huge deal about it the same way John DeLynde. He's like, it's a kangaroo court, and I'm like, dude, you wrote the
it's borderline. We talked about borderline earlier. It's borderline. It's I hate you, don't leave me.
But also, like, I mean, maybe
no. That
Jeremy's
excommunication.
Defense, I think maybe just because his excommunication is exactly normal in that he had an enormous amount of public attention on him. And I can see that affecting how somebody approaches this because he already knew there's a spotlight on him and he wanted to cover his ass. Maybe there. I'll give him that devil's advocate.
You're talking about Lynn now, not Reynolds.
To me, it's always just
Reynolds. I've never had much of an opinion one way or the other on him. His CES letter to me was kind of just a rehash of Grant Palmer's book.
Yeah, it was Grant Palmer Internet edition.
I'm not
his
taking issue with the
excommunication
CES
was
letter.
very with like what he did in that excommunication was scripted, planned, very specifically. Like you do this at this time and this at this time, and I know because I talked to him.
Oh, really?
We had a lot of conversations about.
It's been a long time since I listened. I listened to it once when it came out, and I haven't listened to it since.
I never had a strong opinion on Reynolds one way or the other.
I ended up writing him an email that we then had a phone conversation about, laying out because he at the time was not quite sure what to do. And there's a whole number of rationalizations for why what he did was important for him to do because of the visibility on it and everything, and the way that the church was using excommunication at the time.
And
so first question is, do you show up? You don't show up, they'll excommunicate you in absentia, and then they'll use we can't talk about it. And then that's the implication that there's some moral transgression at the root of it. So you need to show up. And you need to record it because they can still use that. Well, we don't talk about, the serious sins that are involved with excommunication. And so if you don't have a recording of it, then you can't document that they did not bring out accusations of serious moral sin against you that will then
Yeah.
be used.
He
to
wasn't
stain
actually
you.
excommunicated for any actual thing.
Right. It was just the doubt thing. Then he can lay out his case, but then, and it's set in the procedures, after he speaks, they are going to then retire and consult with one another and then come out and issue a thing. And it was very specifically, as soon as you're done with your response, you immediately hand him the resignation letter and then leave. Do not give a chance for a rebuttal. Don't any further discussion at that point is kind of sort of consent to still be subject to their discipline and authority. But as soon as you hand them the letter, you immediately leave. You are no longer subject to their discipline or authority. And so he was able to document exactly why they said they were kicking him out. He was able to defend himself, prove that it wasn't for a moral transgression, have the transparency of not being able to hide behind, we don't talk about the serious grievous sins of excommunication. And he didn't allow them to pass. Yeah, he didn't allow them to pass judgment on his exit, and he retained that claim on his reputation, that claim on his personal autonomy in his life. And I still just I read over it a year ago or so. I posted that email, I reformulated as a blog post about the method of excommunication for that. And I still stand by it pretty much. I can understand the "I hate you, don't leave me" perspective on it, but for his position, it had just gotten so public and so contentious. I think it was a successful way for him to go to kind of thread that needle.
Yeah, no, it really put the nail in it. Like, I mean, because that's just it. Like, what is the actual issue they're taking with him? And like you said, he raises doubt. Ultimately, that's what you can say, because they can't point it like there's not a violation there.
Yeah,
so,
I mean that makes
really,
sense to me. I didn't know that.
It feels like the violation. It feels like the violation would be writing the ex-Mormon Bible. And so I liked what he did. I liked the whole give him the show up to their meeting, but then give him the resignation letter. So you show him that
he didn't write the
I am not
Bible.
subject to your authority. I get that, but
there's a little bit of that.
No, he wrote the ex-Mormon Bible because I understand it was a letter to begin with.
No, yeah,
and he was pretty honest in the first edition of the letter. He's saying look, I don't think you're going to convince me, but here's my issues. I'm not shitting on Jimmy Runnells for writing it. But then he kept writing updates and responses to people and stuff like that. And I would be too. I'm not saying I'm above it. I would, if I wrote that and then everybody, I kept getting responses and people,
but
people responded to me
he was invited
I would be
write it.
yeah, I'm leading people away from this bullshit or whatever. That's what I would have done at the time.
No, but look,
my only issue is acting
this...
like it was unfounded to kick him out. Because
no, because he was invited to write this letter. He wasn't if he was just some guy who went and published this and was like, "Hey guys, here's my letter." No, but the reason it's called the CES letter is that he was asked, put your concerns to this church authority. So
and then
you
he
can't really
published
accuse
it
him
to a
of
bunch of people.
grandstanding there.
He created
the only thing for me with
I'm
all
up for
of
him
them,
doing that, but don't be pissed off when they kick you out of their club that you don't want to be a part of.
Well,
I'm fine with how they did stuff and all that stuff. It's just there's ultimately still this little bit of show they're putting on that they still wanted to be a part of it, and none of them did.
Well, no, but I can still also I take what Jonathan just said though from his perspective. Because the thing is, the church has every tool mechanism in place to play this up in their favor. And by simply recording it, he just shut that down. And there's no debate. They threw him out for doubting.
The thing is with Reynolds, I don't know very much.
Which is not against the rules, so they say.
So I've never had much of opinion on that with Runnells or anything like that, but partially just because I don't remember exactly how much he was playing up, acting like he still wanted to be a part of it, and how dare you throw me out. He maybe didn't do that very much, but Delin did that a whole lot.
Yeah, Delin was definitely I can't believe they kicked me out of this thing that I clearly have been
Dylan.
railing against for like 15 years now.
Maybe that's why
I
Dylan
feel
didn't
so bad for
recognize
you,
the
Dylan.
DVD in Jen, because he did the same thing. Like, oh, how I hate you, don't leave me. That's what Dylan did in his excommunication.
Oh, he
Yeah.
hammed it
I
up.
hate
for
you, don't
sure.
throw me out of your organization that is evil.
We got a little bit off subject. I was I
Little
wanted
bit.
to hear more of your thoughts, Jonathan, on you were
Yeah, I want
talking about this
Jonathan on all
difference,
the shows.
this difference between like the view that like
Hey, that's me.
we will express on Mormonism, the view that Kara will express on Mormonism. You were kind of saying that like, I understand where she's coming from. I think that's what you're saying. We got a
Where
little,
Kara's coming from?
yeah. Was that it? I might be off on that.
Apropos of nothing, guys, I got the tip today, and it's true. The 2019 Burgundies really are nice. And this was inexpensive. I won't tell you what it is, but that is not an expensive bottle of wine, and that is very good Pinot Noir.
So that's the blog right there. You are also
Yeah, you can
going.
put the link in the comments.
Here's the blog if people want to read it in the links. Yeah, we're still going. 1, 2, 3 McNeil. I never know.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah, we're still going.
Not for long.
Figured
I
I could
gotta
go till midnight.
bedtime.
My wife is exploring
Oh, wait,
Hogwarts.
you just sticking around
That's-
until midnight?
That's what I'm gonna do as soon as.
Well,
we
his
get
midnight
here.
for him is he's in he's
Texas.
east.
Wait, is that in 2 hours? No, that's in now.
No, he's east. He's east. Sorry.
That was just 1 hour.
I'm
Wait,
so
are you in
confused.
Mountain Time? You're not in Mountain Time there.
No,
right?
he's not Mountain Time. He's a little bit east.
No, I'm in Central.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I gotta walk a poochie who's gonna go nuts if I don't take him out. But I don't know. I still feel weird about trying to figure out what the heck my position is on if people should be Mormons or ex-Mormons, or what I'd prefer them to be, or what I'd prefer anybody to be.
But where I land on that is that like I've decided that I'm never gonna really go out of my way to talk anybody out of Mormonism. But if they ask me about it, I'm not gonna just be like, it's true. You know?
Yeah.
Well, I just wish there was like we were talking to Forrest Hansen about this a little bit. It's like, Forrest, preach away, but let's find a landing pad. There's got to be a landing pad. We got to find a better.
I had a
landing
friend
pad.
text. I had a
Yeah.
friend text me the other day. It's like, "Hey, I'm joining you in apostasy." I was like, fuck, don't."
I kind of have the
I
thing
mean,
now.
was
Like, I mean,
joking,
it doesn't
but,
come up
like,
much, but if a
be
Mormon wants
reasonable.
to, if somebody, if Mormons are like, why don't you come back? And like, instead of being like, well, Joseph
Ooh.
Smith had many wives, blah. I just turn around and be like, okay, make your sale.
Speaking-
Why should I go back?
We
That's
just have to. I don't know how to make anything organizational or institutional, but we have to find some sort of way of come out this way. You can
So
even get into social
speaking-
justice if you want. It's just first you got to go through this class of actual critical thinking or something. Jonathan posted those old critical thinking videos of not critical theory, critical thinking, or something like that. But
So speaking of Mormon arguments, I had an interesting thing happen the other day at work. It's pretty well known that I'm unmormoned, I guess, but we don't really talk about it. Some people will bring it up sometimes. It's usually Mormons that bring it up to me, and it's like they want to prove that they're one of the cool Mormons that I can talk to or whatever. And I'm like, I'll talk to all of you. But I
It's
heard a line of
okay.
apologetics.
I'm safe.
I've heard a line of apologetics yesterday that I've never heard, and I didn't think that could happen anymore because I've been so engrossed in this bullshit for years now. But it was this woman I was talking to. She brought it up. She brought up polygamy, and I was like, yeah, I actually never heard that Joseph Smith started polygamy until I was on my mission. And she's like, yeah, I knew about it, and I was telling my nephew about it the other day, and he didn't know about it either. He was telling me, did you know that Joseph Smith started polygamy? And I told him, actually, what happened is Joseph Smith, he didn't want to do it, right? He was so devastated when he found out he was going to have to marry all these other women. And I've heard that line of apologetics before. That's a Brian Hales thing. and it's hilarious when he says it. But because I think Brian Hales is probably the most hilarious apologist. But anyway, she then
If you
said,
want to watch something
Emma
recently
came to-
that's funny, watch him debate that Michelle Stone lady. And, oh my gosh, that
I'll
one
check
goes
it
wild.
out. But
Joseph
then she
Smith,
said-
don't
she
make me
said that-
sleep with all these women is like John DeLynn. Don't make me give
No, I know.
$200,000 a year to podcast.
Mm.
Stop,
then she
please
said-
stop it.
But then she said, but then Emma came to Joseph and said, Joseph, I know about the revelation of polygamy. You have to do this. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? I've never even heard
Yeah,
anybody.
that's news.
Have you ever heard that?
Wait,
That story
say
comes
it
up
one more
with Violet Kimball talking to her husband, but I haven't heard it about Emma.
But
I don't.
the only time I heard it about the closest thing I could come to with Emma is that she chose a couple of wives for for Joseph Smith.
Joseph.
But he was already married to them, so it was
Yeah, and then she quickly repealed
I-
that consent.
I wonder.
like, never mind. I don't like it.
I mean,
If you guys want a wild ride, listen to this one. Yeah.
Oh my god, I love Brian Hales. He's my favorite apologist of all time.
Well, she's
I don't
He's
know.
actually willing to talk about this again.
He talked about it. He talked about her, and she's her own kind of firebrand. And she had 2 other podcasts with Jacob Hansen recently. And if you want, you
Was
should
that
be
it?
entertained.
Because that'd be a
Yeah,
funny. Brian Hales, anytime you get him on something he can't answer, he goes, "Well, that's just a head scratcher. I don't know why he thought he needed
He's willing to talk to.
I'll tell you what, it gets fiery, and then they talk about maybe getting there too, and it gets
I want to check it out.
also
But
this.
how old were you guys when you learned that Joseph Smith had multiple wives? Do you guys remember?
Here she was talking about Jacob Hansen on that one, but then
Who is that?
So she's a member and defending it, or she's like one of these.
no,
evangelicals?
she's basically early Lindsay Hansen Park. She started going down the I'm going to study it, and I still want to be faithful, but this stuff's driving me crazy.
She has a
So
problem
is
with
it
132.
Lindsay Hansen Parkita or Parkasita? How do you diminutize
Did
that?
Lindsay Hansen Park actually start studying things?
So here
wanting
she
to
was-
believe, or is that
Here
just
she
like-
was is a 2-parter with Jacob Hansen, and these ones get heated too. And she got heated with the Midnight Mormons too. And if I'm telling you, if you like a roller coaster ride, you can listen.
I gotta check those out. But guys, do you remember how old were you when you learned that Joseph Smith had multiple wives? Was that a
I
thing that was like a revelation or something you grew up?
I was
knowing?
on my mission. I'm not even kidding you. Like I was
You were on your
telling
mission when
my
you found out?
I was telling my companion a story about how I defended and told this terrible anti-Mormon girl at work that no, it was Brigham Young that started it, because for whatever
Okay,
reason
so
we all felt really comfortable throwing Brigham Young under the bus.
I love
And-
that. Like
and my
that's the
companion was
big
like,
defense.
"No, man, you're a moron." I was like, "Oh man, I'm a moron."
It's kind of like that wasn't Lenin's bullshit. That was Stalin.
The thing is, like,
So-
I sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, if there's like true Mormon believers who are good guys and generally do stuff, and I know a ton of them, I sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, want them to hold it and hold on to it and totally back them up and can listen to them, and they can even like pray for me or talk to me or talk to God about me, like Kevin does or whoever and whatsoever. And I'll tell you right now, like, I wish I could believe.
Do you remember?
So
Chris,
secondary to
when
that
did
is you
learn?
wish the church could
No.
accept you in that position of
No,
ambiguous
I
No,
don't think they
No.
need me. I don't think they have to take.
They don't
I
want
no,
you
because then you'd
there.
have to get up on Sundays still.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
want to go
or
to
don't-
church. That's the thing.
I just-
First off, they have.
I
to
just think that
entice me.
we should be able to politically get along, like, form like have a political block. Is
How-
all,
how
I don't need to be part of the gang, but maybe we could barbecue.
I want to continue this thing though, Chris. Do you remember do you remember when you learned that Joseph Smith was a polygamist, or was it something you always?
Yeah,
knew?
well, I feel like I always knew it, but I remember for some reason on my mission I thought it was 7 women. I don't know why.
You
that
had like a
number.
low number. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
It was
John?
7. I don't know why 7.
I've heard so many numbers.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like I
Right.
had this vague sense that I knew polygamy existed in the early church, but I didn't know where it started or who was involved, and I just knew we didn't do it. And it was really until I started actually saying, well, I need to know some more specifics about that. And so I was 38-ish
Jesus.
when that first happened. And that's when I realized, I mean, I think I read one of those
Wait a
biographies
minute. How?
of Joseph Smith
At
that are
what
so
year did
clean
you
that
turn
they didn't
38?
have the polygamy in it.
We might have
Oh,
all
so
we
that
might have
was
all learned that Joseph Smith
2013, something like
we might
that.
have all learned it at the same
That's when I
year.
first started studying this stuff.
I don't remember when I learned it. Like I feel like
See,
it
that's
was
the thing
all.
is, like,
I feel like it was
There's
always.
parts of
It,
well, finish your comment, Flip, because I know you were going somewhere with
but
it.
I
Not
think like
really.
in Salt Lake, people there was like so much whispering around all the different like Salt Lake
What?
stuff. Like, did you hear this? Did you hear this? Did you hear this? And I don't remember when I heard some random. Did you hear this? All growing up around all the
Yeah.
different little wards, and because I think being in Salt Lake too, I think people don't realize like how many times I ended up in different wards or different people's you know, priesthood meetings or different moments where everybody was just Mormon in there, and we were just some random new person was just sitting there whispering stuff, and it was like it's like you got to see 500 different priesthood forms, and people would talk and say
Yeah,
their
you
stuff. And I don't know
hear
when you
people
learned
talking
anything.
around it. What,
I remember
what-
hearing weird stuff too, like maybe when you went to the celestial. If you didn't go to celestial kingdom, you wouldn't have your junk or
You-
something like that.
I
Like,
think the
you
person
heard-
who solidified the fact that there was a awakening of the reality of polygamy was Mitt Romney, where
Really?
he was giving a
Really?
speech. He was giving a speech at like the University of Utah or something, and he cracked a joke, but his joke was like, the last time I spoke here, Joseph Smith only had one wife. And it was after the
Whoa.
church had actually published the essay on that, and he got a huge laugh from it. But it just kind of really
Isn't that-
crystallized the difference
Really?
between the people's
You guys-
perspective on it.
the
What-
incredible irony that a senator is more honest about Mormonism than Gordon B. Hinckley talking to Mike Wallace.
But that's usually why I joke.
That's
Like
after the
most
church
Salt
came
Lake
out with it.
Mormons are Mitt Romney Mormons.
But see, because like, so that's I kind of wonder because like I figure it's probably a little bit double goofy for me because like obviously there's 10 million children of polygamists and I'm one of them, but like because for me, like because two of Joseph Smith's plural wives were my great 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 aunts, and the journal entry that's like most commonly cited is by like my great 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 uncle about how Joseph would approach people, and so my dad told me about this shit before I was baptized. So like
But-
I always knew about it, but
To me-
like I'm like, and for me it's been a revelation as time goes on that like I thought everybody knew, and I just didn't realize how big of a hush hush taboo thing it really was.
There seemed to like growing up like around mutuals and stuff. You'd go play basketball or something, and then after the basketball game, there'd always be like some little session of, "Hey, did you hear this one? Hey, did you hear this one? Hey, did you hear
Marty
this one?"
learned from Wikipedia.
And
But and do you guys all have pioneer ancestry? Who doesn't have pioneer ancestry? Marty, do you?
I have, yeah,
Both my
my
parents
don't.
were converts.
Because like I mean, because like all the pioneers were involved or knew about it. Like,
yeah, my. Did you ever
So-
see the church video of the guy who blew his arm off building a temple? That's
Oh,
my
yeah.
great great grandpa or whatever. But the
the old one-armed Hannah.
yeah.
Speaking about things that people don't know of, I've discovered that as I grow older, there's parts of human existence that I'd never conceived of that become my reality. And so then I'd start to realize that my parents and all these older people have been confronting these challenges. I had no idea of it. And it could be something as simple as like, you know, when's the first time you really come face to face with death, really close? And then you get to see that there's like all these rituals that people have around death. And in the church, their ritual is, you know, where if you're in the Relief Society or in the priesthood quorum, you may be involved in dressing somebody in temple clothes. And even if you don't believe in the temple, when you start to realize that, you know, everybody has to come to terms with death somehow, and the rituals around marking that moment and giving it some measure of importance, I don't know, I have kind of a reverence for it. And so when I think if my mom passes at some point, then she's going to want that type of care for her body. And so anyway, I have a respect for those things, but as I think about things that I've had to confront that I never had to think about before, a lot of it is seeing my kids navigate into adulthood, because we all do that
In the
and
weirdest
we
world,
navigated it in the church, you know, for me, it was like it was in the church, and it was fun. There was activities, there was belonging, there was all those different things. And so then I leave the church, and my kids are still young teenagers, but now I see them going through that journey without the benefit of what the church had provided. And, you know, it brings me back to these church organizations evolved over time to try to address these different needs. And for what it's worth, the church had something there at least. And it's just interesting to see my kids navigate that without the benefit of that. And it feels like something's lost, like they might be. And the thing is, I see this with a lot of kids in that generation where they seem to be adrift by themselves.
I don't remember who it was I just saw talking about. It might have been Camille Paglia. She's the kind of person who says this kind of thing. But talking about how, like, we used to have this cultural institution of the dance.
Yeah.
The high school dance, the community dance, the county dance, the dance. And the point is like, okay, kids, this is where you go to express romantic interest. This is the venue. These are the rules. These are the boundaries. This is what's appropriate, you know? And then, like, but the postmodernists coming along and saying, fuck everything. And
So we've been
kids on TikTok now, and that's the result.
We've been talking that other video that I did with Marty and Christopher from Before the Crow's Nest and Seth. We were talking about Vervaeke stuff, and part of Vervaeke stuff is him realizing secularly you need things like participation still or performative stuff. But I think once you get in your head about it that way too, there's something that's also lost as well. But what's so strange to me is that weird youth that I had growing up, where we whispered about weird things about Joseph Smith after basketball games in a church. Weird that there's basketball hoops in that church even. Your kids are growing up in a weirder world than that. And we thought coming out of it, it was supposed to be, no, we're coming into the truthy world. We're coming into the reality world. No, I think your kids in this current world are growing up in a weirder world than the world where we whispered about weird 1850s, you know. Yeah. And that's what's strange about it. But the other thing that's strange is just knowing that I don't have fixes. I don't have fixes for any of it. You know?
The basketball court's even a cultural thing to me. I don't know. People make fun of that. They'll be like, yeah, glad I left Mormonism so I didn't get married on a basketball court. I was like, I got married on a fucking basketball court, and I was grateful for it because it was free. So fuck you.
Yeah, those baseball games and those mutual basketball games and those hanging around the kids and all that sorts of stuff. Every once in a while, Lindsay Hanson's Park's mom would come and make us sit and watch a one-woman show instead of play basketball. But that would piss us off fiercely. But other than that, that really happened a bunch of times. And you sat and watched a one-woman show of Emma Smith going through her troubles while we held our basketballs sitting in the cultural hall, being like, "Can we go shoot the hoops yet? Can we go shoot the hoops?" And did
it ever cross your mind to hijack an entire church event to do the one-man show about your one-arm?
You can talk to my dad. My dad said that she would go around and bust that out anywhere. It's like she had her suitcase. Like, are you ready for an Emma show? Boom! Here's some one. And you'd go along with it because, like, we were there in the cultural hall playing basketball. I'm like, yeah, we'll come watch it. And we thought it'd be 15 minutes or something like that. And then we go for 2 hours, and we sit there and she'd be like crying and stuff. But
holy crap.
This is real. I'm not making this up.
All right, I gotta work in the morning, guys. I'm gonna sign out.
We got to take off, but I think we're closer to figuring it out again now.
I'm an hour and 13 minutes over.
We figured it out.
Said I was gonna. Yeah, we saved the world for another day. You can all thanks
for letting me join you guys on the porch. I'm just a visitor.
Oh, any old time. We're happy to see you.
Wait, I have one more comment to make though, real quick before you go, because I notice. Are you just doing the television Mexican trope? Because you have that yellow tint, like all of the Mexican narco shows. Are you broadcasting from Mexico and the internet just puts that on?
It was the Coen brothers who first started doing that. I just learned that this week.
Oh,
hey, did you have any thoughts on? Yeah, they were the first one. Oh, Brother, Where Art? That was the first time they digitally altered the color, like
digital color grading. Yeah.
But any thoughts on Last of Us before you go?
Oh yeah. Any last
Oh,
thoughts?
I'm enjoying it so far.
Even the super
But
gayness?
Yeah, I thought you were
I thought the changes
homophobe.
for that. No, I know, but the changes for that. I was crying at the end of that episode. It was,
Did you play the game?
I was watching it with my daughter, and so we fast forwarded over the uncomfortable parts that she didn't want to see. But beyond that, it was a really touching episode.
You raised a homophobe? How the
No.
fuck?
I mean, if you want to sit next to your daughter while there's weird,
What
No,
could be
things happening
awkward
on-
about
I-
sitting next to a
It's likely
child?
not. It's likely
and
not the
watching-
gayness and more the sexness.
Two men with beards make sparks. Beard sparks.
You were okay with him shooting at somebody with a shotgun, but you weren't okay with Amore.
But isn't there some scene in that where she gets the magazines and looks at it, and it's an awkward
That's the
scene with the
game.
dad figure and the.
Oh yeah, that's the
That's
next.
the
That's
thing.
the next episode. We're only halfway through that episode. I'll have to
Oh.
check that out on
No, because
Friday.
like in the game, like I said, like in the game, my part of my defense of the whole thing, and like why it's not woke clubbing you over the head with learn this moral lesson, is that like it's a nice little way to show the character of Ellie.
It's
like
not bad.
turn it.
It's not
Teenagers learn about sex and sexuality a lot of different ways, and it's a little way to give her that moment without making it like, because if it's Joel saying like, "Hey, here are magazines of gay men having sex," like that's extremely weird. But she is like a curious, presumptuous, precocious kid, and the idea
And he
that,
is
like,
the
it's already
proper
set up that she's
protective
a-
father that says,
Yeah.
"Hey,
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, and it's all very natural and character building. And there's nothing like society said it's wrong, but I think it's good.
Well, it's funny because it does
Zoinks.
remind me about. I don't know if you guys like here in Texas. It was weird because we did a lot of walking on the side of the road, and you would like find girly magazines on the side of the road. I was like, it's just people like throwing these things out the side of the road or something. But it's like 2 or 3 times in my life there
is
were
weird.
girly magazines on the side of the road. But
I heard
it was like
stories from general authorities about that happening, and I'd
I
say,
know, man. See, I'm a
why not me? Why not
doesn't-
me?
yeah, see, for me, it doesn't make any sense. 'Cause I'm a millennial. I don't remember what life was like without internet porn.
that's my next thing.
Larry
is that, like,
Flint's just throwing him out of a helicopter.
Remember that old joke we used to say it that
Because sexuality was this
when
thing
we were
that,
young, we
you
didn't
didn't
have any of that, so
common
we were
intersection
poets.
with. Yeah. So when you're watching this show, you're seeing Ellie in a world where there's not internet that's ubiquitous, and so things
Yeah.
like that are rare, and so it's kind of a reminder of that. She
Well,
didn't
I remember
you
hearing
have to do the
stories
thing that we
about
did
that.
where you like have the scrambled cable channel and you have to like sit there and wait to see
Yeah.
like a green distorted boobie or something like that.
No,
The
I
first
remember-
naked woman I saw was from across the room. Some kid holding up a Playboy, and I didn't see another one for years after that. So that across the room Playboy is something that was like
Working overtime.
Yeah.
Had a lot of mileage.
Yeah.
All right, I better get off of this
Alright.
before I get in
All
trouble.
right,
All right,
yeah,
I'll tell you guys later.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Later, kids.
Bye bye now.